Welcome, Wapham crew. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, March 12th, Sunday, March 13th for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and I am broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. I hope you guys have had an awesome weekend so far. Mine's been pretty laid back and lazy. I did do some running around. It's my daughter's birthday today, and I tried to go to a place here called Baked, and they have the best chocolate cupcakes, and some of them are filled with German chocolate icing as well as topped lightly, and some of them are fudge filled, but they were closed. They're closed down for a week, and so I'm hoping that the owner, who is the cook, that he's doing well, and hopefully it's not COVID. Hopefully it's just that dadgum flu that's been floating around, but yeah, she turned 18 today. I can't believe it. Two down, two more to go. But thank you so much for joining us this evening on one of our many outlets. If you're listening live right now, you're listening to us on Spreaker.com. You may also find us live at this moment on KPNL Radio, which you can find on Facebook, as well as KPNL Radio at kpnl-db.com. If you're working out, or working it, or if you got some free time going on and you want some good content to listen to, you can find all of our past shows on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Tumblr, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, Podcast Addict, and Podcast Chaser. Make sure you go on over to YouTube and subscribe, please, and make sure you like our videos or even have a comment below, and that'll help our algorithm to where our shows can get out there a little bit more. We also have some stuff going on Facebook and Twitter. Still working on StreamYard, but life is really crazy sometimes, and it's hard to find time for what may seem like the smallest things. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to my beautiful brother and wonderful friend, Mr. Robert Righi. Robert, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. But first, before we begin, I want to happy birthday to your daughter. Happy birthday to your daughter. Happy birthday to your beautiful 18-year-old daughter. Happy birthday to her.
And many more on Channel 4, and Scooby-Doo on Channel 2, and Frankenstein on Channel 9. Yes, her name is Nova, and she is indeed a Nova in her personality and everything. She's beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, happy birthday, Nova. May God bless you with another 80 years. Blessed, prosperous, healthy, adventurous years. Whimsical. Anyhow, I wish her well. You know what? I remember. Tessa, do you remember when you were 18 or when you turned 18? Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
And I, and so I do too. And, back then, when someone turned 18 within the state of Illinois, you could drink alcohol, liquor. You know what I mean? And so, because they had changed the law. So in 1973, when I turned 18, and then we could go into a bar legally, and and you could order a cocktail, right? And back then, cocktails were like 75 cents. And I'm gay, and so going to the gay bar the first time, turned 18, going to a gay bar, it was fascinating to me. Anyhow. But going into my first gay bar and ordering a cocktail and 75 cents, which now you can't buy anything at a bar for 75 cents.
Holy shnikes. I wish.
Yeah. But anyhow, so I do remember my 18th birthday. I remember I had to sign up for the draft. And at that time, they went from a draft to a lottery. But my lottery number was so high that I didn't have to be worried about being drafted into the Army or into the service. But what I did, and I had no idea that I was going to talk about this just briefly, but I wanted to give back to America. All of my, excuse me, my throat's still healing from the polyps that were removed. But anyhow, I wanted to give something back to our country. And coming from a military family, like my uncles, my great uncles, my nieces and nephews and cousins joined the military service, and they have since World War II, and World War II, and then Korea, Vietnam, and then Desert Storm and such like that. And I still have a lot of relatives in the service. And thank everyone, and thank you, Tess, for your service also. But I wanted to give back to our country because JFK says something about that. What can we do for our country instead of thinking that the country needs to do everything for us, right?
Right.
That we need to give back. So I joined a program. It was called, and it's still going to this day. It's called Volunteers in Service to America. And I think now it's called AmeriCorps. I think they changed the name to AmeriCorps. And but anyhow, so I joined that, and I was sent to Amarillo, Texas. And there were people my age from all over the country, both guys and girls, and going all over the United States. And this program is a program that the JFK started along with the Peace Corps was a big thing back then, right? So this is like the Peace Corps, but only here in our country. And but anyhow, I made $15 a month, and I worked at it's called Amarillo Community Center, and it was a very poor section of town, and it still is to this day. Anyhow, I was there and had a wonderful, wonderful experience. And again, I wanted to give something back to our country. Seeing that I didn't join the military, I wanted to do something else. And so I did that. And this is the first time that I've really spoken about that, about joining that volunteer service and such like that. But anyhow, volunteerism is very important in my life. But anyhow, that's something new that I've never spoken about. But I just wanted to, talk about just briefly that we need to give back to our country. There are so many entitlements, and God bless people if they need them. You know what I mean? Because our country has been good to us. I know that people may disagree with me and such like that, but you know what? We still live in the best country in the world. We do, or I believe that we do. Okay. And so if we can give something back to our community, it doesn't have to be great. It can be something very small. But, my brothers and sisters who are listening to this, somehow give back to the community. Do something. Do some volunteer work if you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Mine started really early, and it was actually due to church. And they had these different projects you would do and such. And a lot of them were helping your community. Well, as a kid, where do you start? So I knew who my neighbors were, and I'd look around and see what Mrs. Frost needed, or Mr. Staley, or whoever else, and go up and rake their yard or help them clean their house or whatever else. So I don't know, that really put the spirit of serving my fellow man and just the joy that comes from that. A lot of people look at the monetary value, but I would never ask for money. Like, I'm volunteering to do this. Many times they were like, here's some money, go buy some candy or whatever else. But generally it's just like just spending time with them, and man, what a joy in their lives too, because they don't really get a lot of visitors.
Amen. And that's, and I agree totally. I remember as a child, and I lived in the center part of Peoria, Illinois. So I lived in the city, and excuse me. And I remember as a little kid going down about 4 houses, and there was an elderly lady that would sit out on her porch swing at night, in the fall, in the summer. And I remember as a little kid going down there and just talking with her. And that was, and you know what? I mean, I can see myself this very moment sitting with her in the evenings on a nice warm evening, in the summer, just talking about whatever, you know what I mean? And then later on in life, my mother was told by her daughter that her mother really enjoyed me coming down and visiting with her, and I never knew that for years and years until later on. And so it's those little things that we can do for our neighbors. It doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't, just, just pop in on them or just knock on the door and see if they need anything. And you know what I mean? And so that's very important. So anyhow, volunteerism started very, very early in my life. It did. There's a lot of things within the paranormal field that I have not spoken much about. And that's because it's just not it. I never thought it was important to talk about the many things that I've done, and I don't want to be put on a pedestal and such like
No, but it's
that.
important to share what you've done and what you've learned from it because a lot of us are still growing in certain
Right.
ways. So,
And all of us are on a spiritual process, not religious, but spiritual process, and just, and so we will make bad decisions, do things in our lives that we are ashamed of. But the bottom line is, if we have grown and learned from those bad decisions, that's the most important thing. If you believe in God or believe in the Bible, that, and Jesus says, that life's not going to be easy. And, especially in the book of Genesis, when Adam and Eve and all that and creation and their fall and everything from grace. And, God said that life would not be easy. And it's not easy. It's not. And
yeah, that was one of my favorite pictures that I'd see, and it was a picture of Jesus, and he said, I never said it would be easy, but it is worth it.
Right. Oh, yeah, it is. It is very much so. And so it's not easy, and we're going to go through trials and tribulations. But at times, my brothers and sisters who are listening to this tonight, that sometimes we allow people into our lives that are very toxic. I'm not talking about going to Walmart like I did a couple of weeks ago and such like that, right? With all the psychic vampires. But it's just like
Yeah,
that we
energy
allow people.
vampires, bastards.
Yeah. Yeah. So we allow people in our lives who are just negative. Sometimes, Tessa and my brothers and sisters, that sometimes we don't think that we're worthy of having good friends that will be very positive. You know what I mean? And so, and so then we get with folks that are going to be very, very toxic to us. For some reason, we don't feel worthy. Well, nobody's worthy. You know what I mean? It has a lot to do with how we were raised by our families and, such like that and everything. But it's just the fact that a lot of times we allow people to come into our lives that have their own garbage and baggage. And before you know it, their garbage and baggage becomes our garbage and baggage. And a lot of times that we do have demons that chase us, inner demons and such. I'm not talking about paranormally at this very moment, but it's just the fact that we have our own demons that chase us, right? And those demons could be anything. It could be any type of addiction, right? And so sometimes those demons catch up with us. They do big time. Sometimes, like I said, that we are with people who are very toxic, and so their demons are chasing them, and now their demons are chasing us.
Yeah, they're like, wow, that looks like a really nice buffet over there.
Right. Those demons are parasites and such like that. They need a host, right? And before we know it, we are in a world of hurt. you know. But again, there's so many different types of like demons. And, somebody asked me one time, what do, describe a demon or describe, like this or, demons. And to me, a demon is a demon. I don't categorize them. You know what I mean? And especially in the paranormal field, you know, uh, and so of course Lucifer and Satan, and some people believe that they're the same being. Other people don't. So it depends on one's spirituality. You know what I mean? Um, some people will say they're poltergeists. Could be a demon too. You know what I mean? And so we just have to figure out ourselves, and but usually that we know, that we can, sometimes we can go in a group of people, right? And for some reason, you just get this eerie feeling, a feeling of being very uncomfortable around this person. It's almost like your body is telling you, get away now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You know? And I'm sure that has happened to you in your life, Tessa. I know that it's happened to me in my life many times.
Yeah, when I was
Many,
younger, I'd get those feelings, but I wasn't quite sure what it was because I've always had a certain level of social anxiety. So I'm like, oh, you're
mm-hmm,
just nervous, whatever. But as I've gotten older, like, I don't even have to meet a person before I know that I don't want anything to do with them because now I can sense their energy and I know where this energy is coming from and I'm able
right.
to avoid certain situations. But I do get sucked in sometimes.
Right. And so we all do. Some, excuse me. Sometimes we get sucked in because we think we can heal them and we can save them from themselves.
Yeah.
More times than not, we can't, and before we know it, we're into the mire and muck ourselves. You know what I mean? You know, and sometimes we don't want to hurt the person by saying, you know what, we can't hang out. We can't hang out. You know what I mean? We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and so a lot of times we are sucked in. A lot of times that we get in deeper than we had planned to. And so we must be very, very, very careful and always follow your instinct. That's one thing. The Godhead or the God or the universe, whatever you want to say, is that that God created us as social animals, right? And so instinctively we will know at many times um, if a person is going to be good or bad to us. You know what I mean? We get that feeling, just like what you had just talked about, right? That you get a feeling there's something just not right, something not right with this person. And your body is telling you, because your body, our tongues will lie, right? But our bodies will react to evil in a heartbeat. And so, well, excuse me. So we will hear in our heads, and our spirits will say, maybe you need to get away. Maybe you just keep your distance. Don't get too close. Then a lot of times, then we have this inner fight within ourselves. Oh, I think I can handle it. The person's, so.
Yeah, it's kind of just like with relationships, your heart
Uh,
and your mind can sit there and fight forever and misguide you. Just listen to your gut. What does your gut say? Or what does that inner voice say? You know,
right.
quit
And it's
wasting
very,
your time on this mind and heart thing. Yes, they're both really, really good things to have. I'm not going to say that.
mhm,
But as far as when something's going wrong or you're around a toxic person, like you're saying, whether it's in a relationship or roommate or friend or whatnot,
mhm.
yeah, definitely the gut.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And we can't save the world. We can't. We can't help everyone. We can't save everyone. And we talked about that in the last radio program that we did. We can't save anyone. We can't save everyone. We can save or help the people in our own community. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be monumental, like I said in the last radio program. That by opening the door, or just like you said, go seeing someone, knock on the door to see if they need something. At least do something. But demons, so demons that chase us, and the demons, and I'm going to talk personally about the demons in my life. I've not talked about this too much to anyone, but at my age, I'll be 68 years old. So it's like, you know what? It's time. But the demons that I was facing, the demons can be any type of addiction, any type of addiction. The demons that I had to deal with for many, many years was that, just like I had said, that we can't save everyone. I believe that I could, you know what I mean? And even to the detriment of myself,
Right.
And I did have, I'm a celebrated brother. If you don't know who I am a psychic medium, and I am gay. I am Roman Catholic. Um, and being gay, especially many years ago, like I said, I came out when I was 18 in 1973. And it's just the fact that back then, for a gay male at least, you had to be very thin, good looking, wear nice clothes, have a tan and whatever, right?
Right.
And so I wanted to be part of the community, right? And so I believed in that. And so, because I heard it from other people, you could see it in magazines, all the pretty boys and stuff like that, right? And anyhow, before I knew it, I had an eating disorder. I became oh my God, I haven't thought about this in such a long, long time. It's wild. Anyhow, so I had an eating disorder of, and I just really stopped eating. I ate once a day. I had anorexia, and I ate once a day, but I exercised probably 6 hours a day. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to be young. And to me, that was a demon. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it was. And before you know it, I was 145 pounds. And I remember at work, and I was probably 23, 24. And when I was at work, my supervisor comes up and says, Robert, you do excellent work. I'm not saying anything about your work, but do you know how thin you are getting? And one thing about somebody who has an eating disorder or having anorexia or bulimia, especially anorexia, is that when you look into a mirror, you think you're fat. That you see your fat person, you see I saw the fat
Right.
Robert, right? And I did not think that I was fat. I didn't. But the more people who would come up and go, oh, Robert, you're really looking good, that fed into my anorexia. It really, really did. Because the more people said, oh, Robert, you look great, you look fantastic, the less I ate. So they were feeding into me. And I probably was manipulating the situation also, you know. But anyhow, so she suggested for me to go to the doctor, and I did. And this doctor who was also gay, good guy, and God rest his soul, he's passed now. But anyhow, and he said, Robert, he said, take your shirt off and tell me what you see in the mirror. And I said, I see a fat person. And there I was, and there I was, and he touched my rib cage. I was so thin that you could see my rib cage. I didn't see that. All I saw was fat. And he goes, Robert, and I went to him also because I was having these chest pains. And what was happening is that my body needed protein, and the body doesn't get protein. What happens? It starts eating itself. So I was having chest pains because of that. And he said, Robert, he said, your body is beginning to needs protein, and you're not giving the body what it needs, and it's beginning to attack your organs, especially your heart. And that's why I was experiencing all this pain. But anyhow, that was the demon in my life at that very moment, was wanting to and some people may disagree may disagree with me, and that's fine. That I call it a demon, this eating disorder, but it is to me. To me, an eating disorder or any addiction is a demon. It really, really is. It will destroy your life if you allow it to. If you allow it to. And
Well,
in
yeah, and
my
it's
life,
like you were saying that unhealthy image, like, yes, it's beautiful at first, but like you said, if you go over that line and you quit eating even more and more and more, like, what's going to sustain you? You're just going to be eating yourself up,
right,
basically.
and it, right, and it's very, very true. During that time, also, I was a vegetarian. And God bless vegetarians. You know what I mean? I was
I have a
vegetarian.
really good friend that said she went vegetarian and she said her diet was ramen noodles. And I was like, baby girl, that ain't vegetarian. That's ramen noodles. Like, vegetarian is eating really good stuff, but she became anemic because of this.
Oh, very much so. Yes, very much so. For me, I did eat chicken once a day. I didn't eat the skin. I ate a lot of fruit and vegetables. I really did. I would go to a place. They had a wonderful vegan restaurant where I was living in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was called the Skinny Cafe. It's no longer there. But anyhow, everything was vegan. Everything was. And but anyhow, so I did eat a lot of fruit and vegetables and such like that. But again, I saw myself as still being fat, and so in the gay community, but remember what I said was, that you had to be young, you had to be tanned, you had to have nice clothes and whatever. So I fed into that. So anyhow, so the demon at that time in my life was was being anorexic, and finally it got, and here I am a psychologist, right? And so in my head, I was thinking that I was still fat, and I wasn't. And if people would have come to me with those types of problems for therapy, I would tell them that that you have very poor body image, and I did. You know what I mean? But anyhow,
Yeah, you can
after
see it
six,
in others, but you can't see it in yourself.
amen. Oh, amen. Very, very true. So that demon lived with me. I allowed it to live with me for several more years after that. And then, just by the grace of God, I went by a Burger King, and that hamburger smelled so damn good. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I, I turned that damn car around, and I turned that car around, and I went to Burger King, and I had a double meat Whopper with cheese.
Oh my
I
goodness. Oh
I had
yeah.
I had two bites of that, and before you know it, about because I thought to myself, I have not had meat like this, processed like this. It's going to kill me. You know what I mean? It's going to make me sick somewhere along the line. But I just was craving it, right?
Mhm.
And but anyhow, so I eat a couple of bites and I wait, and about 20 minutes later, I was sick to my stomach. I was so sick because of all the chemicals and
Yeah.
such, right? And so I kind of like threw that away. But anyhow, I was a vegetarian for a while, and I'm no longer a vegetarian. But God bless people that who are vegan. God bless them.
Yeah, and you eat beans and stuff, like something to replace that protein because you do need protein. Whether it's
Right.
fish, chicken, or beans, something.
Right, right. And I love, I mean, and beans and such like that are good too. But anyhow, so that was, some people may not say that as a demon, but I thought it was. As I look at it now, it was a demon in my life and such like that. And again, we all fall short of the glory of God. We all fall short of the universe every day of our lives. There are things that we are ashamed of. There are things that we're very proud that we've done also. And so when it comes to demons, there are so many different types of demons. I mean, of course, there's the spiritual demons, and of having, the paranormal, but being Satan and Lucifer, are they the same person and such like that? And then you can, oh my God, then there's a bevy of names for demons and such like that, and it's just like, oh my God. I mean, there were one time I looked through this book. There must be 100 different names of demons and lower demons. To
Oh,
me,
I'm sure
a
there's many
de-
more.
I'm sure there's probably thousands, but it's just the fact that to me, a demon in one's life is just not a good thing. It's not, and so for us to rid ourselves of any demon, it can be a demon that we have allowed in our lives and such like that.
Well, it could be due to drug use as well as trauma. There's so many different things going on there.
Oh, amen. And drug abuse. Um, one thing about the drugs in myself is just I never liked smoking pot. When you
Oh,
know
for
what?
shame.
You
Well, that just means more for me.
Okay, thank you. And even when I'm in high school, I never smoked dope at all or pot. But then in college I did. College, I just couldn't get enough of it. You know what I mean? But back then, I'm not advocating, but it's just the fact that back then, when I was in college, that the drugs were pure and they were, you know what, you didn't have to worry about somebody dropping dead from an overdose. It was very seldom that
Yeah, and
that
I've never
happened.
heard of a weed overdose before.
No, me either. You know, and so the drugs were pure. They were a lot different than they are today. And such like that. But now for the state of Illinois, within the last 2 years, 3 years, recreational marijuana is legal. Gummy bears, which I love, and they do help me sleep, thank God. And but anyhow, so I'm not advocating anything like that. But in the states, like in Colorado, which was one of the first states I do believe
We would
to
have been number one, but Washington beat us.
yeah,
So we were
very
number
much
two.
yeah, do. And but anyhow, so there are demons come in many different shapes and size and forms and such like that. And I know that people are so obsessed about demons, about the devil. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, and a
but
lot
I
of times when it's just a ghost, they think it's a demon, and it's not. It's just a ghost trying to communicate. I'm sorry I
right,
scratched you. I was just reaching for you, and I finally came through, or whatever the case may
right,
be.
right. And I am more worried about the demons, not the spiritual demons, but just other demons that we may get, like pornography. Pornography me Pornography to me is very demonic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
That
very
is
addictive. I've known
yeah,
people
very
addicted to that stuff.
yes. And so people just have to be careful. And people talk about within the paranormal field, our brothers and sisters talk about everything is demonic. Oh my God, please give me a freaking break.
I have
Tessa,
a
I
friend
think
that's like, oh, even my aunt was like, why are you communing with demons? I'm like, these are ghosts, these are spirits, just like you and I. We're spirit
right.
individuals having this human experience. Well, they're on the other side, and I'm trying to help
Hmm.
them. Yes, I do believe there are demons. There's some people that believe there aren't. And there's some people that believe all ghosts are demons. Like, there's so many different beliefs out there. But I do
Right.
believe there's spirits and ghosts, which are residual, and I do believe that there are demons and other entities out
Hmm.
there beyond that.
Right. And there are, and not all spirits are demons. I think in my lifetime, I think that probably less than 5% of paranormal activity is demonic. I truly believe that. I truly believe that it's not a higher percentage than that. I think it's pretty low. So I give it 5%. It could be lower than that. You know what I mean? And but again, I am more worried about our brothers and sisters having the demons catch up with them, not spiritual demons, but just demons in their lives that will lead to their demise. You know, that bothers me. Even more. But there are demons out there. I mean, there are demons demons within the paranormal field, um, and being human,
Yeah,
and
I've
we
had a
read of.
demon that I finally realized
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, and all throughout my life, I just wanted to make people happy and to be happy. So as a people pleaser, and like we were talking about earlier, that really
Uh-huh.
was detrimental to me because I was putting everybody else first and not taking care of myself. And
Right.
so, like, how can you take care of others if you don't take care of yourself? But the
Hmm.
one I realized was that in my subconscious, I was thinking I don't deserve happiness, even though I'm striving for it the whole time.
Hmm.
And I kept subconsciously doing things to destroy my happiness. Um,
Right.
and
We do.
and once I realized that, I was free. I was like, oh
Mhm.
my god. And I finally
Right.
realized it, and I was able to take steps not to do that anymore. But like once
Hmm.
I realized it, I was just like, oh man, what a freaking relief. What a weight off my shoulders that was.
It is very, very true. It's how that we are reared, raised by our families when we were growing up. It depends the pecking order. We are social beings, okay? And so everyone in a family, there's a pecking order. Who's who's number one, two, three, and four, and crap like that, right? So we all fall into something, right? There's always going to be a scapegoat also. Every family has one. There's also going to be a people pleaser in the family also. Okay. A lot of times the scapegoat is also the people pleaser. You know what I mean? So the people pleaser are the ones that are always on the back burner. They never come up front. They have been told, and maybe they've been told verbally, but sometimes just by example and action within a family or within their own denomination, within their own church, that we need to help other people. We need to not think of ourselves because it's very vain and crap like that, right? And that we just need to help other people. Well, helping other people, like I said earlier, is great, but we must take care of ourselves too. The person that we need to love first is ourselves.
Yeah, and
Then we can
sometimes
love.
that makes you feel guilty. Like, even
Oh,
when I
it
buy
does.
clothes for myself or whatever, I'm like, man, like I could
Oh,
be buying clothes for my kids or something else.
right,
But I
right. And
don't
it's
do that very often. I still have clothes from high school.
oh, that's wonderful. And don't and and probably in the next 2 or 3 years, those clothes will be very popular again, dear.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, yep.
and
I got
just
some corduroys, baby. It's gonna
oh,
come back. I just know it.
so just keep on to those. But anyhow, and so and so and so a lot of times that people get into certain things within the paranormal field because of how we're raised. It's just like, and we talked about this before. It's just like, why do people join gangs? People join gangs because they don't fit in normal, quote, society.
Yeah, they need to be accepted somewhere or feel accepted.
Right. Their family doesn't accept them for whatever reason. And granted, we all fall short of God or the universe, right? But a lot of times that we just don't fit in. We don't fit what American culture says that we should look like physically. Okay, and maybe we're not. Maybe that maybe we're not educated in those types of things, so you don't fit in that realm, or you think you don't at least. And so that's why people go into gangs because they feel accepted for who they are. Granted, there's some things that you may be initiated into a gang, could be horrendous things. But on the other hand, but just to think about in your mind, well, if I do this, I'm going to be accepted. And maybe it will be the first time this person, male or female, will be accepted by anyone. And so they're willing to go out and do what they need to do for this initiation, you know? And and so we have to find our own niche in our lives. But going back to the demon part of it, Lucifer and Satan, and are they the same being? Are they the same being, only called differently?
Or
Tessa, tell me.
is it Satan or Lucifer and his right hand man? His number one.
Right. And so then again, the word that we hear in Genesis is Lucifer, which means the light bearer, right? And so here of Lucifer. Now, is Lucifer Satan? Uh, it depends. It depends. It depends of how you were raised in
Right.
your family. It depends what church you went to, if they are the same being. And to
It
me,
could
in
even be
my
experiences you've had. And
right.
then
Oh
different
yes.
things you hear. Like, even
Mhm.
my husband is like, Lucifer's not going to come to earth and do his own work. He's going to send somebody else. So would that be Satan?
Right. I don't know. I don't know. You know, there are people called Luciferians.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are Satanists. You know what I mean? And to talk to them, I don't know if you ever had a Luciferian on your program, have you?
Not yet, but it's a good idea, I guess.
Oh, that would be interesting, Tessa. It'd be interesting to get their point of view and to have them describe or even talk about I mean, because in my mind, Satan and Lucifer are basically the same being.
Yeah,
They
they're the
are. I mean,
same,
to
but they're
me,
kind of different. I don't know.
yeah. Well, right, yeah. But they're all going to be the father of lies that we hear in the Bible and such like that.
Right.
They're very cunning there and such like that. And so they all have, I would say qualities, but they all have different, I know, they all have the same kind of MO, if you know what I mean. You know what I
Yeah, the
mean?
same drive forward. This is our goal. This is what we're working on.
Right. But a lot of Satanists don't believe in hurting another person.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's different types of satanic groups that do a lot of hurting people. They do a lot of sacrificing of animals, of
Yeah.
also of also of human beings.
Yeah, there was
Then
this
there's
sect in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I grew up, and I used to walk by the
uh,
university because I had hopes and dreams of going there one day and getting a further education. I was only like 6 or 7 years old, and then I was walking along this brick wall, and I look over, and there's this building, and it's got these vines growing over it, and there's a goat's head, and then there's an upside down cross. And
mm,
so that scared me, and I got as far away from it as I could because I was like, I knew that was not a good sign. I didn't know why, but I just didn't feel
mm,
comfortable. So I ran
mm,
and went the opposite direction. But then I looked it up later, and like you're saying, there's certain ones that do sacrifices and such, but there's others that are into um, having the good life and pleasure
mm,
and like the most pleasure you could ever have. Like seek that, and who gives a fuck
mm,
about anyone else, etc., etc. Like it's all about you and your life and having a good life and
mm,
reaping all those benefits, basically.
mm. And it's very, very true. So, in my mind, so there are some good Satanists, I guess, and some bad Satanists. You know what I mean? Um, you can read about them. They're all over Facebook. You know what I mean? Different websites and such like that. And and but in my experience, have I met? Have I had an encounter with the evil one? I'll just call this. Excuse me, myself. This being the evil one. You can call it whoever. You know what I mean? Satan or Lucifer or whoever, right? Or there's a thousand other names that I'm not going to mention.
When I saw I said Satan.
Mm, okay. And so in my lifetime, one time in Florida, my lover at the time, where we were walking along the beach, and it is on Cape Canaveral seashore, which is a federal um, where the space shuttle and everything, where NASA is. Anyhow,
Yes.
when they are not going to have any space shuttles or have any things, going on there, that this 50 mile of federal seashore is open to the public.
Yeah,
And
I think I
so you
actually went
go.
there one Christmas, and my dad made me wear a sweater, but I got to see the rocket set off. but I was hot as
Oh,
hell.
wonderful. Oh, wonderful. It is. And seeing, oh my God, I've seen so many shuttles when I lived in Florida. And a lot of my friends, their families, their fathers, grandfathers worked at NASA. So being like 2 miles away, and especially the night ones, the early morning ones are just beautiful, just
Hmm.
beautiful. But anyhow, and so this one evening, my lover and I decided to drive to Cape Canaveral seashore, and it was open, and during the day, because the state of Florida does not allow public nudity on their beaches, but on the federal land, federal beaches, there are no statutes at all
Oh,
about
wow.
having a nude beach. So you go to Cape Canaveral Seashore. It's 50 mile. I mean, the parking lot is just it goes 50 miles or better, right? Anyhow, the furthest north you go on the parking lot, and if it's during the summertime, you will see less and less people. You will see people wearing less clothes. In the very beginning, probably the first 10 miles of the seashore, it's families and such like that, right? But then you go further and further, maybe it's 100 miles of seashore. Anyhow, but you go further north and then you will see people with less and less clothing on. Well, so my lover and I decide just to walk around the beach, and there's nobody there. There's no cars. It's about 6 o'clock p.m., 6:30 or so, and it's in the fall, so that means it's getting darker sooner, right? Anyhow, so we just wanted to walk along the beach, and so we went there, and there was no cars, there was no houses, nothing in the Cape Canaveral seashore, right? And so, and so anyhow, all at once, this person appears from nowhere. Nowhere. I have no idea where this person came from. There's no cars, nothing. And this person, and the way the person looked at me, and the way the person laughed, my body was telling me that that was the evil one. It was bizarre. That had to be one of the most
Yeah, you
bizarre.
just feel it.
Yes, and you do. I looked into this person's eyes, or this being's eyes, and there was nothing there. Nothing. Nothing. The way he cackled when he laughed, I'll never forget that. Never forget that. And then a couple weeks later, so we left right
What
away.
did he look like? Just curious.
Okay, he was skinny, not really, even not very tall. His face was kind of, I remember his face was kind of pitted, kind of oily hair. Um, he looked disheveled in a way, you know what I mean? Kind of wiry kind of guy and everything. And so we just, and he was just there. He kind of like he peered to both of us, right? I shouldn't have said appeared, but he he was walking one direction, we were walking another. But just seeing him and just feeling the vibes that I got from him, right? It was just eerie. It was weird. So he was going south, we were walking north, and I just had this feeling that we need to get back to the vehicle. We need to get out of here, right?
We need to
So,
go right now.
yes. And so we turned around. We started to walk south. This was probably 15 minutes after we kind of parted, right? He was nowhere to be seen. Nowhere. Nothing. God knows where he went to. You know what I mean? And that was creepy. That was really, really creepy. I'll never forget that. And then 2 weeks later, I remember going to sleep. And right before I went to sleep, I heard with my audible ears that I am going to destroy you. And that's when I said the prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, right? And again, I mean, I heard it audibly with my ears. Now my lover was asleep, didn't hear a thing. It was for me to hear, right? But to hear that audibly, I'm going to destroy you. And and that I will never forget either. it was something that I'll never forget also. So there's certain things in our lives, and I had a lot of good things that happened to me in my life, right? But some of those bad things and I shouldn't say bad things, but those experiences really stayed with me and such like that, right? And and so I will never forget that. So again, I said the prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, and my thinking is that being that we saw on the beach, excuse me, Cape Canaveral, was or is the evil one. You know what I mean? And so because I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in luck either. But just the fact, I think that people come into our lives for a specific reason. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so we may not know it at that time. Just like the last time we talked about angels walking among us, and there's angels around us. There's good angels and bad angels around us all the time too, right? And um, but anyhow, just hearing that, okay, that experience with that guy, um, and then and then 2 weeks later, hearing audibly in my bedroom with my ears that I'm going to destroy you, and um, and so
Be
just
like, the
praying.
hell you are, motherfucker. I'm gonna mess
Amen.
you up.
So I would say like Satan get behind me and such like that, right?
Yeah, my
And
dad
so,
told me, because I used to have night terrors all the time, and he's like, just say, God stands before me, Satan fall behind. And that
hmm
worked. It actually worked.
right, and it's very true. And even because we believe that it's going to happen, especially because your dad told you and you believed your father, you trusted your father
Yeah,
in
your
his wisdom,
faith.
whatever, right? You
Yeah.
know, right? And so psychologically, it was going to help you. You know what I mean? And it did. And so that experience there, um, with the evil one, seeing him on the beach, but like now I see him. And I've not talked about this in 1,000 years, you know what I mean? But just seeing him or talking about it, like I'm walking on the beach now, there, I remember. And but just seeing his face, like I said, he wasn't ugly, nor was he good looking either. Just kind of normal, not normal, but you know what I mean. It just
Haggardly. He's a little haggard.
yeah, and he looked like he'd been through a lot and such like that. But he was very thin, very wiry. But the way he looked at me, just at me, not at my lover, David,
Yeah,
just
that
looked at me.
knowing, like, in depth, like, I'm looking into your soul, and I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. It was like, I need to get the hell out of there. We need to get off the beach. And so we did. And but I will never forget that. And then, like I said, 2 weeks later, hearing with audibly with my ears that I'm going to destroy you. And a lot of times when we hear those things that I am going to destroy you, a lot of times at that time we are destroying ourselves. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because we do. That we put ourselves in situations that we shouldn't be in and stuff
Yeah,
like
we're
that. Thank you.
our own worst critics, and I'm pretty sure I have a, magnet in my forehead that attracts negative people to me.
Amen. And just like what we talked about before, is that that we can be in a room with a million people that will treat us beautifully. Well, there'll be one loser. That loser will be drawn to us, and we'll be drawn to them.
Is it because
You know
we
what I
always
mean?
pick the underdog, or what? Like, what
Right.
is going on here?
Right. Very much so. So we think we can save everyone. Well, we can't save everyone. Because we need to save ourselves first. We do, and there's nothing vain about that at all. Because we need to love ourselves.
And it does
You
make
know.
people feel guilty, but no, there's nothing wrong with giving
Right.
some real good time to yourself, whether it's soaking in a bathtub and having some wine, or
hmm
going out and eating tons of junk food, or watching a movie, and just spending time alone with yourself, getting to know yourself. Like recently, I've been
And
painting rocks. I'm like, I'm going to go paint rocks. Leave me alone for a while. It's very therapeutic for me. It's my form of meditation besides spacing out. But
well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That is an excellent outlet. excellent outlet. And so we need to find our own outlet that is going to be something just unique to us. You know what I mean? Other people may do it too, and that's fine. But it's just the fact that the way you paint rocks may be totally different than the next person, Tessa. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people do find a lot of solace doing a lot of things, and painting is one of them, and such. Or just get out with nature. Just get out and see nature and see how beautiful it is, especially in this world that's going to hell in a handbasket as we speak.
Yeah,
You know
my
what I
sister
mean?
Sandra, she goes for walks every day. I'm like, man, must be
Mm,
nice. But she just goes from her
right.
backyard, I think, and beyond. But yeah, to
Oh,
go
I
for
see.
walks and get in touch with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was really sad. A portion of the place that she used to go and walk, they tore down to build more housing units. So that was
Oh, I
sad.
see.
But she still has places
Mm-hmm.
to walk now. Hopefully that
Right.
lasts. But yeah, she's got that. So that's awesome. Yeah, walks in the
Okay.
woods is what she says, and she's always taking pictures and sharing it with us. It's beautiful.
Oh, wonderful. And or just like, painting or going for a walk or just sitting by yourself. Turn off the phones and whatever, and just get in tuned with ourselves because so many people have lost themselves. Really, we have. We have really lost our way many, many, many times. So we
Yes.
need to get in touch with ourselves, get in touch with that inner child and such like that, right? It's very, very important. And so these demons or the evil one uh, and
Hey,
they can
I
come.
have a
Well, go
sign
ahead.
that says "Don't feed the demons." But I hate to, but I do have to cut you off because we do have to go to our first music break.
Uh-huh. That's fine.
Alrighty.
Stay tuned, everyone, because we'll be talking about even more things.
That's right. So on this break, we have Miss Tracy Cruz. She is from Oakland, California, and she's going to be singing Joyful Rain. And then we have Miss McKaylin Hain, a very young adult. I believe she's 20 by now. But she's going to be singing Devil You Know, Pins and Needles, and Mirror. You guys don't go anywhere. Oh, yes, and she's from Ontario, Canada. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Your love flows through me like water from the rain. It flows right through me. You've cleansed my soul and washed away all the pain. You from the sky to make us smile. You loving me, I feel like flying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall from the sky to make us smile. To make us smile, to make us smile. You loving me, I feel like crying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall, tears of Talking on pins and needles, every word through a microscope. You keep stomping down on the ground while I've been stuck on this tightrope. I just wanna say what I wanna say without your sentence. I'm not willing to do the time when I'm innocent, and I'm innocent. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Walked on my share of thin ice with your blowtorch at my feet. You won't ever see me beg, so take this tongue off your leash. I'm gonna say what I wanna say, don't need permission. Interpret it how you want, it's my decision. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Dancing on shattered glass, kicking the pieces all around. My safety has been broken, this is now a hunting ground. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, up, up. Talking on, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, up, up. Talking on, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, up, up. Talking on, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, 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 up. Your troubled heart bleeds like a river. It's rushing towards fields painted greener. It doesn't see the demons behind, praying you're getting close to the line, so they can get their hands on love and trade it off for silver. The curtain's nice, but what it hides is worse than sticks and stones. Before you climb the fence tonight, look through the microscope. Better the devil you know. 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 Your nervous spine is crawling with shivers. You're standing right in the eye of a blizzard. You're inches from a shelter, so near to warmth of a home. Better the devil, you know. Better the devil, you know. Better the devil, you know. Better the devil, you know.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. This evening, we are joined by the most wonderful Robert Righi. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're most welcome, and good evening, good day, good afternoon to the entire universe. Thank you for listening in to my beautiful Colorado friend, Tessa. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate that so much. And we were talking about demons. Demons, the spiritual part of demons, and just demons that chase us, and sometimes they catch up with us. And you know what? Just like I said earlier, that I'd not really talked about a lot of demons in my life, right? And so I thought it was time to talk about them because they're always with me. They're
And I think
always
that's a
with me.
good way to let them go, too, is to talk about it.
Yeah, very much so. Okay. So I know they're always there. They're always there. So I have to be very, very vigilant about my eating, right? And the saying is that it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you.
Wow.
Because we find comfort in food. Being a
Oh,
Judeo
yeah.
Christian society, okay, we eat at funerals, right? What have we?
Yes.
What
It's called
culturally?
comfort food.
Yes, culturally, many many years ago, neighbors, and unfortunately now a lot of people don't know their neighbors, but people would bring casseroles over, and that's how we express our sympathy to someone else, right? We made them something food-wise, right? Okay, so in our culture, we eat when we're happy. We eat when we're sad. We eat when we're mad. We eat when we're happy. Food, food has this thing. I don't care if you're happy, sad, whatever, that you're going to eat. Really. Okay. So we find a lot of people find great comfort in food. I know
Okay,
I
so I'm going to
do.
start off with chocolate. Okay,
Mhm,
and I'm going to defend this food because it has
mhm.
antioxidants and it's been used since the Mayans. Just make sure you're doing that special dark chocolate from Hershey's or some sort of dark chocolate. The lower in percentage you get or the higher in percentage you get, the more bitter it is, so be very careful.
Very much so. Yes. And so, and so culturally, we eat when we're happy. We eat when we're sad. Okay. And so a lot of things, what happened to us culturally, right? Okay. So, like I said, I have been anorexic several times in my life. And so that is a demon that I keep, that I know that it's there. I know that it's there. And so I think about it sometimes, and sometimes I don't, but I know it's always there.
So
It's always there.
after you go through that, do you have a portion of time where you overeat for a certain extent of time and then you get back on a regular schedule and then kind of dip back in?
Yeah, there are times like I try to be bulimic, but I can't
Oh
stand vomit.
no.
I don't
Yeah.
vomit. I can't stand that. I can't. Not at all. And
I
so
just like to kind of form it into a well-formed turd if I can. I'd rather not throw up because I did enough of that with my kids.
right. And so I know, like right now, I can't eat a lot because of my throat, because my esophagus, right? And so I can't eat a lot. So I've lost a lot of weight, right? But on the other hand, it's not because I have a poor body image of myself. It is because of what's happening to me physically, right? And so I drink a lot of Boost. I drink Ensure. Oh, and right now they have wonderful, because St. Patrick's Day is
I'm glad
coming
you
up
said
soon.
inshore because it sounded like you said you drink a lot of booze.
Oh,
But
booze.
at
Oh,
least
no,
you
no.
said
Booze.
inshore
Booze.
afterwards so
Booze.
that then I
Booze.
knew. Boost
Yeah,
and
booze.
inshore, yes.
Yes.
It
And I'm
sounded like
sorry
booze for
because,
a second, but you followed with
oh, no,
inshore, so
no,
I was like,
no,
yeah, he's
no,
got it.
thank you. And part of the problem is because uh, last year I was in chemotherapy. It has rotted my teeth out. So I am getting dentures in 2 weeks. So it's very hard for me to speak. Not well, it's because of my throat, but now not having any teeth, people don't
Yeah,
realize that your teeth really help you in pronounce and in
for
the
sure.
pronunciation of a lot of words. It does, and stuff like that. They do. Anyhow,
Definitely.
so I'm sorry about the boot. No, I
Oh
haven't
no,
had.
no, I was just saying that was kind of funny. I knew what you were saying, but at first I was like, did he just say boost? But then you said insure, and I was like, oh, boost. So I got
Right,
it.
boot.
But I was just
Yeah,
making
thank
sure
you.
everybody else heard it
uh,
correctly because
yeah,
I knew what
thank
you were
you.
saying. But I'm
Right.
sorry if that made you feel bad. I'm not trying to make you feel bad because
No, it's
chemotherapy is hardcore and that's some serious freaking business. You're putting
mm-hmm,
something into your body to kill off cancerous cells. Not only does it kill
mm-hmm,
off cancerous cells, it kills off other cells and therefore you had issues with your teeth, etc.
right.
Hopefully it doesn't go
And
like deep in your bones, like deeper,
right.
and
No,
started
and
there.
so,
But holy shnikes. I'm so
so
glad you're
any
still here because I didn't even
oh
have a clue about that. So I'm so
yes, and
grateful because I love you so
yeah.
much.
Oh, I love you too, honey. But it's just the fact that I don't tell a lot of what's going on with me because of our brothers and sisters going through much, much more than what I am, right? And so going back to my demons, and one of them is like being an anorexic and that and everything, and 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 being around a lot of negativity and therapy, and the therapy and being a therapist, that all the negativity that I have experienced after all these years, over these years, what I mean? People don't go to a therapist to tell them, "Oh, my life is wonderful. It's great."
Yay!
Yes, and people go to a therapist because they believe their life is out of control. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they have allowed other people to come into their lives that make their life even more hell than what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like for me,
And
I was
so,
like, I got this, but my husband's like, I really think we need counseling. So we
mhm.
did, and I'm doing the homework and shit, and he's like, well, she said I didn't have to do the homework. Well, if you're not going to do the work, I'm not interested. I ain't doing it.
Right. And it takes two to tango. It does. It takes
Indeed.
two, you know. And so then, so just being around that negativity, and again, I have always loved being a therapist and such. And but being around that negativity day in and day out, you go into the courtroom and such like that, and see the sadness of people's lives. Oh my. That does take a toll. And I remember one time going to a cemetery and sitting there. And it's very hard to find a cemetery in Florida. It really, really, especially in South Florida, it's very difficult.
Yeah, a lot
And
of it sank or washed out or whatever. Like all the markers are gone. How do they keep up with that? Really?
and then also a lot of people are from the East Coast, and so people are buried back in the East Coast
Oh
also.
yeah, they go back home.
They go back home, or they have their bodies sent to Puerto Rico, back where they're from Puerto Rico, right? But anyhow, so it was hard for me to find a cemetery. So finally, I did, though. It took me a while, and so I found one, and I remember going there and just sitting, thinking, "Oh my God, I wish I was them. I wish I was them laying there. It's so quiet and peaceful." Because at that time of my living situation was not healthy at all. Oh my God,
Oh, I totally
it
feel you. That's kind
it
of
was
like the same
horrible.
way I was like driving up this one route, and I was like, if I was ever to die somewhere, I want it to be
Mhm.
somewhere like this because it's so beautiful. Like,
Right, right. And there I was, sitting there amongst the tombstones, quiet, eerily quiet. And it's like, oh my God, I wish I was you folks. I can't take what it's not that I was going to commit suicide. because I know that I would not do that. I mean, I know. I mean,
No,
I
but you
saw.
gotta be careful of what you wish for because the mind is a powerful thing. Like, it's pretty scary how that works.
Right. And so all of us have thought about suicide somewhere along the line.
Oh yeah.
Active suicide or passive suicide. Passive suicide is like, well, I'm not going to take a gun to my head, but I will drink a bottle of vodka every day. And that's passive
Yeah,
suicide.
that's a slow, painful sort of thing. Mostly
Hmm.
numbing, but it's very, very painful in the end.
Right. Oh, very much so. And so then, and so I was just sitting there thinking, I need to change my life and I need to change it soon because it's not normal for me or not normal for anyone basically to go to a cemetery almost every day and sit there and wish that you were them. And so I had to bite the bullet. And my lover at the time, if he ever was a demon, really he was. I mean, he was very negative. And
Oh,
here
he
I
had
thought
one
that,
attached to him that was using him
right.
as a puppet.
Oh, I mean, he was very abusive to me emotionally and such
I
like
feel like
that.
that's the worst. Like, when I was emotionally abused, I was also at the same time sometimes physically abused. And I used to wish
Um,
that it was more physical than emotional because I feel like the emotional scars are harder to get rid of.
oh, they are. Oh, very much so, because those scars are there for life. For life,
Yeah, it
they
takes a
are.
long time, if ever, to get
Yeah,
rid of those.
right. And sometimes they'll rear their ugly head. So so, and I consider David. His name's David. I won't say his last name, but as far as I know, that he's passed away. God rest his soul. And but I but to me, he was evil incarnate. He was, and I just had to get him out of my life. And so, and what I did was that he knew where I worked and such like that. But I grabbed the clothes that I wanted, had to get out of there fast. I'd left a lot of things materially, which I wish I would have taken with me. But at that moment, freedom is precious. It really, really is.
Yeah,
Emotional
dude, I
freedom.
joined the military to get out of a relationship like that, and I swore I'd never join the military because I don't believe in war. But
Right.
yeah, he
Hmm.
had taken me away from my friends and my family, and I felt like I had no one, even though I still had those people. I didn't feel like that because I fed into the bullshit.
Right.
But
And
yes, I did join the military because of that. So I'm not saying,
right.
yes, I was thinking of my country when I did this. Yes, I was thinking of my country, but I was also thinking of myself. How the fucking can I get out of here? So it was like the week before, I'm like, guess what? I joined the military and I'll be leaving next week. Go
Mm,
ahead, try to kill me. They'll know who it is.
right. But what you said was very telling, Tessa, of what you said. Remember in the very first statement of what you're talking about, this relationship, right? Remember what you said and how you said it. It's almost like it's almost like that you were blaming this person of you having a miserable life. And what I heard also was that you allowed him to do. We
I
allow
did.
people and people and I don't mean to be mean or nasty to you, but
No,
what you said was like, okay, well, okay, the guy's doing that, but she allowed it to happen,
I
and we all
did.
do that. We
I could have
all allow,
fought back. I could
right?
have left
And we
earlier, but I felt like I really loved this person, and that's where my heart got in the way. I love this
right,
person. I can change him. He won't always
right,
have a Napoleon complex. He won't always be like this. And then
hmm,
all of a sudden, I grew taller than him, and he really got pissed off.
right.
Um, but
And so that
anywho's, yeah, I
so
did
that
allow it.
happened.
I did.
Yeah, and so we do, and we have to take ownership of that. We have to take ownership because if we don't take ownership of that, we will get into another relationship that is going to be even more destructive.
Let's play a
Right,
game. It's called the
right,
blame game. No.
right. And so we have to take ownership of that. we allow things to happen in our lives. We do. We allow it to happen. We allow a lot of stuff in our lives, very negative things. A
And
lot of
that's
it, a lot of,
true, but I also have to say, like, when you're a kid, like, I was 4, maybe 5 the first time I got molested.
mhm,
And I did have that guilt complex. Like, he told me if I told anyone, he was going to kill my family. And he was really good friends with my mom. I called him Uncle Jack. That's how close to
mhm,
this fucking guy I was. And he took me in to give me some food, and he took me past the food into a bedroom.
mhm,
And my mom's out there playing croquet, and that's how that stuff happened to me. But don't
mhm.
blame yourself when you're a kid because there's really nothing you could have done to
Amen. Yeah.
prevent that. But when you're an
Thank you.
adult or even a
Mhm.
teenager,
Right.
there are lines that you allow to be laid down, and yes, you're still learning and you're still trying to grow, but at the same time, I did allow that to happen to me because I was
Right.
thinking of love and that I'm a people pleaser. I can heal this person. I can make him better. No way in
Right.
fucking hell could I. Like, that's why I joined the military, because I knew I'm just sitting there slouched down on my dad's couch and I'm smoking a Camel, and I'm just like, man, what the fuck am I gonna do? And there's this Marine Corps commercial that really fucking inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that's the hardest branch, and they tear you down and then they build you back up. Well, I don't have very much further to go till I hit rock bottom, like, because I really feel like I'm there now. But I know there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple more levels below me. So let them tear me down and build me back up. And I think that's the best thing I really did for myself, even though I'm
Oh,
totally against, like, I don't know, war and killing people. I think there is a means to an end, but most times it's not war, but that's where we go. Except for now, when we really need to. So, I don't know.
amen. Very much so. And so, but a lot of times what happens also, and I must preface, I must say that when I said that we allow people in our lives and we must take ownership of that, but also that we must understand that how and what happened to us previously as children will dictate our behavior as an adult. It will. It will follow us. It will follow us. You know what I mean? And again, children are not responsible. They are the innocent victim. Children don't do anything. I don't care what they wear or don't wear. You know what I mean? Nobody has the right to mess with any child. None. No man has the right to put their hand on a woman either. You know what I mean? Oh, hold on for a
Yeah,
second.
I was very
Yeah.
disgusted because my half sibling's father, his granddaughter was molested by the son of the guy that molested me, and he's like, well, maybe she shouldn't have been wearing makeup.
Oh,
Really?
right.
You're gonna say this happened because she was wearing makeup? I don't fucking think so. I think this is a sickness, and I
Hmm.
think perhaps what happened to me could have even happened to his son. This guy was pretty fucking sick, so yeah, seriously. You're
Right.
gonna
And
blame
it.
it on the kid that decided to put on a little fucking fake makeup? Give me a
Hmm.
break. Like, I really wish I could
Right.
slap him in the face, but I don't think I ever will.
Mm. And you know what? And it's very, very true. No woman wants to be raped. No woman wants to be raped. I don't care what they're wearing. You know what I mean? It's just a fact that um, that we don't have very many boundaries anymore. You know what I mean? And or in our society, you will hear men say, "Well, she wanted it."
Oh yeah, that's what my nephew said a few months ago. I'm gonna say about 4 or 5 months ago. Well,
Uh,
she was asking for it because of what she was wearing, and I was on the other side of the wall, but I could hear what he was saying because we're in a trailer and we put up this wall and it's got slats in it until we put up some binding on the other side. But I was like,
hmm.
okay, Jim, so your ass crack is hanging out all the time. Does that mean you're fucking asking for it? And he didn't like that very much.
I can imagine that. And
Yeah,
you calling them out like that. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Seriously.
Wow. Yeah, and it's very, very true. And you know, and and so everything is a blame game, like you said. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, my brothers and sisters, and we've kind of gotten off topic, and that's okay too. But it's just the fact that of how. what happens to us as children, the good, the bad, and the ugliest things, it
And
is going to
this can
follow us.
cause our demons.
Right, right. And these demons, yes. So we have demons now because of a demon that was chasing this other person and hurt us so terribly. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Nobody has the right to touch anyone else. They don't. No one has the right to do that. They
No.
don't. You know, if people have to be very, very careful. A lot of it has to do with political correctness. You know what I mean? I have to be careful. Me being gay, I call females like honey or dear. Well, a
I
lot of
don't
females.
mind.
Well, thank you, sweetie. See, I called you sweetie, okay? But it's just
Oh,
like I
bless your
know that.
pointed head. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. It's just the fact that I know in my life that several women have come up to me and said, "Please don't call me that. We are not that familiar."
Well, yeah, and
And
it
I said,
can become derogatory as far
"Right,
as where they come from and stuff, and the way people can use it in a derogatory manner.
right,
But you're not.
amen."
You're using it
No,
in place of like a respectful manner. But she's
right,
used to
right,
it being derogatory, so at least she said that.
right,
Please don't call me that.
right. Yeah. And so I apologized. I was mortified. I was mortified when two ladies came up to me and said, "Please don't call me that. That made them feel uncomfortable." Oh, I apologized. I did in a heartbeat. And so I understood that I can't, that I just couldn't call females those types of names. And even being the most innocent, do you know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
I,
I
so I,
have
I
female
did it.
friends that call me that too, and I think it's just like how you grew up in different
Uh-huh.
terms. Like I find myself calling my kids babe, even though it used to be my old man, but once he went into ICU and thought I'd never see him again, I started calling Lily and basically Lily for the most part babe. Okay, babe, well,
Right.
how about you do this and whatever, trying to be gentler because we're all going through a hard process. But yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
pretty weird, like the different things that you learn to use as a term of endearment. But then
Right.
if somebody's in an abusive situation and somebody uses that term, it can be a trigger.
Oh, very much so. And I try to explain to people within the paranormal field, I use the term of endearment. Now, these people I thought were at least, education's not everything. I understand that. I know some guys and gals both that went to vocational schools and they're doing beautifully in their lives. You know what I mean? That they work with their hands. You know what I mean? And that's great. God bless them. But some of these people within the paranormal field, what I would consider educated, when I had made a statement to someone, and then everybody they called me later after this saying, "Why did you call that person something that was very derogatory?" And 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 I said, "Well, it is a term of endearment." Well, they have no idea
Yeah,
what
and if
that.
you don't know what that means, that's love and respect.
Yeah, they had no idea what that word meant. I thought, "Oh my God, really, really?" And it, oh my God, it just went from bad to worse. So finally, I had to separate myself from this group that I met online and whatever, right? Because what I said was very innocent, but they did not understand. And I tried to explain it to them, and I used the term of endearment, and they didn't understand that either. I didn't know how simple of a term that I needed to get to make these folks understand what I meant. I did say that I did not mean any harm. I did not mean any disrespect whatsoever. It was a
No, that
term
was
of
like the
endearment.
furthest from your mind. It was nothing
Right. Yeah.
disrespectful.
Right. And I would have never said that if I believed in my heart that it was going to hurt this person. Really. And you know what? I'll tell you what I said. This person was trying to sound like an Italian. okay? And me being Italian, right? And maybe you
Oh.
see, thank you, right? And maybe that you have seen, and maybe our brothers and sisters who are listening to this have seen the movie Goodfellas,
Oh, yeah.
okay? Okay,
Oh,
so
you
there was a
calling
bunch
me
of
a clown? Oh, so I'm a
see,
clown to you. Uh-oh.
see, and that, and also, they're called wise guys. Also, they're called
And then I was using the
Guido.
term Gestapo, but I think that's more Russian, isn't it?
Gestapo's German.
German, okay.
Yeah. So Guido, I have cousins named Guido, and
Oh,
Guido
yeah.
in English means guy. That's all it means, right? But there are a lot of like New York Italians and Boston Italians and Italians that live in New Jersey that people talk like this. You know what I mean? They'll talk with
Oh,
that
yeah.
accent
I
and
went
things
to the
like that.
bar, and I parked my car up
Right,
front.
right. And stuff like that. So this guy, this guy was mimicking, and I could have taken it the other way and said, "Listen, what the heck are you doing, trying to disrespect me by having that,
You disrespected
supposedly
me. You
Italian accent,
disrespected my
right?"
family.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so anyhow, so he's to me that we would call him a Guido because he was trying to be a wise guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
With
that's
the
what I take
accent,
Guido as, like half-ass or wise guy or whatever. You
right? Yeah,
fucking
right.
Guido.
Right. So it's not a I can't say the word. You can say it for me. It's not a,
Derogatory.
thank you, dear. I can't. With no teeth, it's hard for me.
No worries.
Anyhow,
I'm here for you, babe.
thank you. And it's just the fact that I tried to explain to him that it wasn't, I was trying to be disrespectful. In fact, I was giving him kudos for doing that, but they did not understand. So a week or so
They're like, oh,
later,
you're trying to be disrespectful, guy. This guy a Guido.
right. Yeah. And so anyhow, so then the owner of this group and of this podcast called me, and also this other guy, I'm not going to say their names, this other guy, was on the line too. And he wanted to know
Guido.
why I was,
I'm just kidding.
I know. And yeah. And so he wanted to know why I was so disrespectful. And that when I said that everybody kind of blew up, like, why is Robert saying that to him and such like that? And I said, first of all, I said, that is a term of endearment. They had no idea what that meant. So I had to even go even more simpler
They're like, what the
terms.
fuck is this guy talking about? You're like, okay, let me
Right.
step a step further, okay?
Right. And it's like, oh my God. So I tried to have different examples. It went over their heads.
Oh
I mean, God
no.
bless. God bless them. Finally, I said, listen, I meant no disrespect, but I said in Italian culture and in the Italian language, Guido only basically means guy.
Yeah, hey guy.
G-U-I. Yeah, okay. That's all it means, right? And so anyhow, I said, and I tried to give examples, and they didn't understand. And I said, you
And
know
they
what?
couldn't get past like their wall.
Right, right. And so I said, you know what? After half an hour, I said, I tried to explain to you what I meant. And I said, if you still don't understand, I'm sorry. But again, I meant no disrespect to you at all. You folks took it way beyond the moon.
I would
Way
have
beyond.
said, if you don't get it, then fuck you, Buttafuoco. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
my
I'm just kidding.
God.
I wouldn't have said that, but
Wow.
that's how you could be
Wow.
insulting. But you're like,
Right.
wow, you guys really took this wrong, and that's not how I meant it. It was a term of love and endearment, whatever. Look up the
Right.
term endearment and see what it means. But yeah, it's love and respect to me.
Right. And for myself also. Anyhow, and so I had to separate myself. That to me was very disrespectful to me. And granted, I guess I assumed, which means making an ass out of me and everyone else, that I assumed that they would understand that term or that name Guido. I thought everybody who was even not even educated,
I'm like
probably
wondering,
don't
maybe
understand.
after The Sopranos, Guido was something really bad.
Oh, maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. Because because I know that in Goodfellas and even in The Godfather, they would use the word Guido. Okay, and with me and my own family, I mean, going to Italian functions where there'd be like a big Italian picnics where there'd be like 500 people, you'd hear that name being screamed. You
Everywhere.
fucking
Hey,
Yeah,
Guido.
you
Guido
fucking
2.
Guido.
Guido 3. What the fuck?
You know,
Guidos.
yeah, and they would be called it like Bafangul, which means
Hmm.
Bafangul in Italian. People don't say like people don't say like.
My brother Bear, he used to be the drummer for my husband's band, would be Buffalo. Yo,
Do you
man.
know do you know what that means in Italian?
Go fuck yourself or something? I don't know. Or
No,
fuck it. I don't know.
no. Your brother fucks your sister.
Oh, well.
That's that's what it means. Bafangul means
Buffalo.
Bafangul means that you fuck your brother's sister. Whatever. Anyhow,
Yeah.
they don't
Big
say
insult.
motherfucker. They don't say that. But anyhow, I thought, these people should know what that means, but it never did. So I had to cut myself because after that instance, we were pretty tight, close, right? But then after that, I had to distance myself. To me, that is kind of like a demonic influence too, if you know what I mean. Here we're really tight and everything, and then all at once, by this a simple word, one word, it caused like World War III, or it could have. You know what I mean? That's kind of a wild example, but it's just the
Right.
fact that to me was somewhat demonic. If people can understand maybe that how how something demonic is sometimes is so subtle. You know what I mean? And by doing all this and like causing all these waves, you know, with me using the word Guido and everything, it was a term of endearment, it was a term out of respect, and they didn't get it. They turned it around. And to me thinking about it then at that time, then, oh my God, is this demonic? Could it be? Maybe the evil one put it into their minds that this is evil. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. Um, and so, things like that have happened to me, and I'm sure a lot of people have said things, and they were very innocent about it.
Yeah,
But
right
before
here
you
I'm reading
know
a
it,
meme that says, real friends don't get offended when you insult them. They laugh and call you something even more offensive.
oh, amen. Very true. Very true. And so I had to cut myself off from them, and that made me sad. It did. But everything happens for a reason, and unfortunately, it had to end like that. But and I know that a lot of people in the chat rooms are probably saying, "I thought they were going to talk about demons." Well, we are talking about
Well, we did
demons,
advertise for high strangeness in the Southwest, so perhaps we'll talk about that at the third hour. But
right?
yeah, demons, very important. So I'm like, hell yeah, let's do that, and we'll talk about that the first hour or two, however
Right.
long we need to talk about it because it's very important. And I feel like since even before COVID broke out, but when COVID broke out, it made it even worse. And so there's all kinds of anger, disheartenment, strangeness, confusion, etc., etc. People doubting themselves, their lifestyle, etc.,
Oh,
etc.,
yeah.
going on in the
And pe-
world, and that's what these negative entities feed off of. So they have a plethora of people to feed off of,
oh, very much.
and I think it's causing a lot of affects, really, as far as that
Oh, it
goes.
is. It is. It is very, very much so. And it's like, and when we're isolated, people isolate. When especially, well, anyone, even children, adults, and everyone was isolated from our society on some level. And some level we all were, okay? And so it affects children in a different way. It affects adults, senior citizens especially. A lot of senior citizens would go into depression. I know now that they're studying during COVID at its height about children and suicide, young adults and suicide and that type of thing. Um, but I think in 50 years, our society is going to, that people in 50 years are going to say, you know what? Those people were so stupid during COVID. They were so
Well, you
stupid
know
and so.
what? As far as the suicide rate goes among kids and such, I remember the
Um,
suicide rate being higher actually before COVID hit. And I think COVID
oh,
has actually caused some sort of, um, I don't know, resignation or whatever, like where they're going to go above and beyond and they're going to fight against it. Like, fuck this COVID. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Like, kids keep getting together no matter what. And last year I did homeschool hell. This year my kids went to school. My daughter gets sick pretty often, but hey, this is the first year she's been subject to the cesspool of all the disease out there in the world.
mhm. Right.
But yes, we all got COVID right before Christmas.
Oh
And so it was
my.
a really shitty Christmas, and my husband almost died, but
Right.
things are back and better than before. And I wasn't trying to be negative, so somebody's like, just have hope. And I was like, you know what? I can't pay the bills and keep my boat afloat on hope. Yes, I have
Uh-huh.
hope. Yes, I have faith. I have these different things going on, but I still need to
Right.
pay my bills, and I can't do this without my work partner. And so if you could help me, that'd be cool. But oh my gosh. So like I said, he was like right there, death's doorstep, saw heaven, the kingdom of heaven, God and the mother and the earth below. And
Hmm.
he looked gray and white and he was falling apart in my hands. And next time I see him, which is 3 days later because I take turns with my daughters, oh my gosh, leaps and bounds this guy has been going. And even the doctors are like, oh, well, we're going to send you to Denver or Albuquerque because you need to go to these special facilities.
Hmm.
And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm going home. And they're like, well, if you can walk to the bathroom and back before this date, then you can go home. And he did. And yeah, he's walking without a walker or a cane. He's still on oxygen, but that's the next hurdle. But holy shit,
Hmm.
this guy is like blowing everything out of the field, and people are using him as a subject, basically. Well, look at this subject. You know, he did this and this and that, not because of his faith and
Hmm.
willpower and whatever else. And no, he's not religious, but his faith in like what his life has to provide and different things going on there. Like we did
Hmm.
not leave him alone. As soon as we could be there, we were there. So
Right.
that's important too, is like feeding energy in whichever way you can. But
Hmm.
personally, it's much stronger, but
Right. And
very
then,
scary.
and that's very true. Yes, very, very scary. So there's a lesson in everything that happens to us. There's a story that we all can tell during our isolation or during COVID of how it has affected us. Really, everyone has a story that needs to be told. You know, um, some of it will not have a good outcome. Of course, there are hundreds of thousands of people that died. Millions of people probably worldwide with COVID and such like that. And but there are a lot of miracles out there also. Your husband is one of them. Your husband was closer to death's door than most people have ever thought about being.
Yeah, he had a 15% chance.
Right. And look at him. He's home. I know that last time when I, excuse me, last time when we talked or when I was on your program, that he was staying elsewhere and such. And now he's home.
Yeah,
You
he
know
was
what I
at my
mean?
daughter's because the
Right.
floor was smoother and we have carpet and bumps and stuff. But yeah,
Right.
he's like, I don't even need a walker or a cane. Like, I'm all good.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. He did have a blowout last night. He was coming back home and the front porch light was off.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually slipped, and me and Lily were sitting in the bedroom listening to music. And we heard this gunk on the wall. And we're like, what the hell? So we turned the music to mute or pause. And then all of a sudden we heard this scream or yell or I don't know what you want to call it, but we both looked at each other and ran down the hall. And of course, Lily is smaller and more spry than me, so she beat me to the door, but we both ran out and met Vern headway. And yeah, he had fallen and he even had a little divot on his knee from hitting, I guess, the gate or something.
Right.
Um, but yeah, he slipped on the ice because he
Oh
couldn't
my.
see and he was, I don't know, not really familiar with where he was stepping. And we do have a
Uh-huh.
little If you don't know where it's at, there's a little ice slide there. So yeah, poor
Hmm.
guy. But he's doing really good. Like still walking around, trying not to use oxygen. When he moves around, he needs to take it. But if he's just sitting, he's good
Hmm.
on room oxygen. So he's way ahead of schedule, which is six
Oh, good,
months.
good. Is he like working from home now?
No, pretty soon he will be the driver and I'll be the person chaining the cars down to the trailer for the car we're going to be hauling. So we'll be hauling cars again soon.
Oh,
And
I
cutting
see.
cats. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to get pretty buff. Pretty soon you'll see me with some pretty buff muscles.
That's wonderful. So that's wonderful. So things, and so here, here's your husband was at death's door, and just like I said, that last 2 weeks ago when on the summer program, that you were really, because you and I had talked about how are you going to tell your children that their fathers died? Remember that
I
conversation we had?
know. I was
You
so
know?
heartbroken. I was like, how am I supposed to tell them? I don't
Right.
even know what to say. Oh,
Hmm.
your dad's not here anymore. Hopefully he'll come visit you in dreams or something. Like, what the fuck do you say? Oh, your dad
Right.
died, and I'll give you a couple days off school, but otherwise you gotta go back. I don't know.
Right.
Like,
Right. And
where do you
you
go?
know, right. And that's one of the most difficult things that a parent can sit down with a child and say, "Mom's no longer here." Well, why isn't she? Where does she go? And depending how young the child is, also, you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
and so but to have that, and parents, it's just really really sad. It's sad, this whole COVID thing, and I think our government has even made it more sad. Finally, thank God and thank God your husband is doing. I mean, he did he just turned everything around.
Well, you
It
know
was his
what?
gift.
I'm super grateful for the chaplain. Okay, so I get this call, and I wake
Hmm.
up in the middle of the morning, which you guys know is like right when I'm going to bed. Um, but I get this call, and it says chaplain on there, and my heart jumps out of my chest, and I'm like, there's only one time a chaplain's gonna call you, and that's generally when your loved one passed away. So I'm like, like it took my breath away, and I answered it, and he's like, hello, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing okay, how are you? And he said he went and saw Vern, and he suggested putting like family pictures and any cards the kids have made or anything else like that in his room. So that's what we did very next day. We took a picture up there and a stuff like looking sad hound, and then um, different cards and such. And I guess when you do that, then the team should work hard anyways. But I guess when they get that emotional sort of affect or connection to you and
Uh-huh.
see you have a major family depending on you, there's people in your life that love you, and your walls and your shelves aren't bare, like it's full of shit that we don't even know what to do with. They eventually start hanging things on walls and stuff, but I think it makes them want to try extra hard, which, like I'm saying, you should do that anyways for anyone. But
Right.
maybe
That's
it
great.
touches the heart or something. I don't know.
Well, that anything, emotionally, psychologically, it probably was a boost. It probably was. You know what I mean? That my wife needs me, my kids need me even more. You know what I mean? And granted, it's been a bumpy road, and most relationships, it is a bumpy road. You know what I mean? Without going into detail. And it's just the fact that that when someone is ill and by death's door, that we want to do everything, even if the person maybe what I mean. Maybe the relationship hasn't been really great at times, and other times it has, right? But on the other hand, this person means a lot to everyone, and so you want to boost their morale. And having these cards and such like that in his room, it probably is, turned him around. Granted, he knew that he was loved, right?
Well,
He knew he
yeah,
was
and he didn't
loved.
even see it for a while. So Robert's like, nah, he was not gonna die. He wasn't allowed to die. And I'm like, dude, had you seen him when I seen him? He was white and gray, and he was all sucked up, falling apart in my hands and looking like a fucking corpse. I thought the next step was death. And so that's when I talked to you. I was like, man, like, I really need to bury him with his family, but I don't know if I can afford that because we don't have insurance. And so maybe I'll cremate him and spread him here and then spread him in other places or something. Like, I don't know. I was so freaking lost in talking to my friend and brother Robert, who I'm so grateful for. But man, that was such a scary time. And it was like next time I saw him, there was color back in his cheeks, and it was like he was resurrected. I don't know. He just seemed to come back to life. It was insane. And it could be like maybe the things the nurses said, or maybe the messages were more hopeful, or the voice was more hopeful. I don't know.
Or think of it this way, that, you know what? God's not ready for him. The universe isn't ready for him. Do you know what I mean? It's not his time. Also, there's a lesson in everything that we go through. There's a lesson. And think about, Tessa, think about what was the lesson through all this with you? You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell us. But just think about what
Well, I
have
just
you
posted
learned?
it recently. Appreciate
Oh,
what
did
you
you?
have. Even though it's not what you've always expected, appreciate what you have. And even like when I was thinking down about my dad's dying, my brother's throat just got slit and he almost died and now he's here and blah blah blah. Like, I have different families that I need to visit. And my gunny sergeant was like, no matter how bad you think you have it, somebody else out there has it worse. And that really made me think. And I had never thought about that before. I was always like, oh, woe is me. I have it so bad. Then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit. And then thinking back on other people that I've known through my life, or people that I was yet to meet. They
And it's
have
very,
it a lot
very
worse than
true.
me. No.
Right.
Don't try to bring them in house and adopt them. But try to help how you can. But yeah, I'm pretty bad at bringing home stray animals.
And stray people.
Yes.
But, you know.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's just like, and
It's
that's
bad
why, like,
addiction.
earlier-
I'm trying to break it still.
Well, God bless you. But just the fact that how I, in the very beginning of this radio program, of how I said that I never was open about what was going on with me, because I understand that my brothers and sisters are going through a lot worse than what I am. You know what I mean? And it's not all about me.
And then that's where I come in and say, still at the same time, people need to hear your story too. What
Right.
else are you going to draw faith upon?
Amen. And but that's very, very true. So that's why I have been probably more open on your radio program. I'm not doing a lot of programs anymore, but I will continue to do yours. Okay.
I'm so blessed.
And
I'm so grateful.
you know, and oh well, I'm the one who's grateful. Very, very grateful for you, my friend. But anyhow, so there's a lesson in everything. There's a lesson. You know what? You know, Tessa, it would be interesting to have your children individually tell you, or to write how they felt months ago, how they feel today. That would be interesting.
That's
that
a
would
good
really-
idea. I might do that.
That would be very, very interesting to
Well, on
them.
that note, Brother Robert, I do have to go to my second music break. I really hate to, because I hate
That's
to
fine.
cut people off, and it makes me feel very awkward, but I have to. I'm a little late,
No problem.
but you know, late is kind of fashionable these days. But on this break, we have Miss Tracy Cruz from, actually, it's Oakland, California, and she'll be singing Electricity, Emotional Love, as well as Flowers and Candy. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Your love empowers me. It gives me the energy to move beyond my capabilities. There is no limit to what your love can do.
I feel chemistry whenever you're close to me, and I cannot explain your energy, 'cause you're pulling me like gravity. sits and put down, it's been shattered, and then I'm left without any clue to know the real truth about what I found. But with you I found my common ground. Your love makes me emotional, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel emotional. You make me feel that love is real, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel emotional. Ever since I was young, my mom said love makes you strong when everything goes wrong and you can't go on. I believe the love you have for me surpassed infinity. That's why you're all I see. Your love makes me emotional, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel emotional. So emotional. Love is real, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel. Your love makes me emotional. Your love, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel emotional. So emotional. Love is real, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel emotional. What you have is magical. We feel so emotional. You move me so I can't let go. I can't let go. You touch my soul, I can't let go. I can't let go. 'Cause what we have is magical. Your love's emotional. Your love makes me emotional. You're the one that makes me feel emotional. Can't you see you do something to me? Oh, I can't let go. You make me feel. Your love's emotional. So emotional. So emotional. It feels so real to me. It feels so real to me. It feels so real to me. It feels so real, yeah. Makes me feel, emotional. When I met you, my life changed. Your love rained all over me. It was blissful, so special, essential. Life poetry, true beauty. We created, we made it. Reality, pure affection with expression. Our connection was meant to be. You make me feel so good inside, like therapy for my mind. You make me feel so good inside. It was like flowers and candy, understand sleepless nights. Our loving ways have turned to endless fights, and we can't seem to compromise. We try so hard to make things right. Yesterday, we'll erase all some turns. Can't be silent. Hands off side. You are my life.
And what is really happening?
Changes are moving through everything. Changes. I will accept you for who you are, all your flaws and your scars. Because I love you too much to let you go. You help me grow. I will accept you for who you are, all your flaws. Because I love you too much to let you go. You help me grow. I will accept you for who you are, all your flaws and your scars. Because I love you too much to let you go.
Welcome back to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. This evening, we are joined by the one and only psychic medium, Mr. Robert Righi. Welcome back, Robert, and thank you so much for hanging out with us and feeding our
Welcome.
souls. Seriously, like, there's so much information out there, and we're all still learning. It is really a learning process.
Amen. Very much so. And thank you, Tessa, for allowing me to be back on. I appreciate you so very, very much. And thank you for everyone who is listening in. This is a real difficult time for everyone in many different ways. Our economy is changing. Things are changing in the world. We're still people still COVID and that type of thing, right? But just the fact that we need to be here for each other. Okay, that's most important. We need to
Yes.
listen to each other.
We
We
do
need to
not
listen
need to
to
be
each other.
tearing each other down right now. We need to be helping and lifting each other up. Seriously.
Amen. That's very important now. It is. Start with your family. Start with your family. And
That's the
and
core.
I know, yeah, and I know that during the height of COVID, being isolated, a lot of families have had a lot of problems. Okay, arguing, bickering, those types of things.
Yeah, I even heard from
Family.
my friends that are in social services and such, like, there is a high number of abuse basically going on in the family world, whether it's between husband and wife or father or mother against child, like a lot of crazy abuse going on when they locked us down, and then even
Mhm.
going back to work and just all the high stress. I don't think people are knowing how to handle it, because you know how they give out medals to everyone. Oh, here you go. You get a participant award for being here. Oh, wow, great. No, everybody's a winner. No. Like, we need to learn how to deal with things in a certain aspect, and I think it's like, it's really crazy and scary these days. I think the number of abuse and such is up, and I think the number of demons or other negative entities is up as well. I've had a numerous amount of calls this last couple years compared to other years. It's been pretty intense.
Well, earlier, Tessa, that I explained of my experience, one of my experiences with the evil one. Have you had any experience with the evil one? And if you do, could you please explain and elaborate on that?
Okay, so that goes back to my night terrors and repetitive dreams and such. I didn't have a lot of really good dreams when I was a kid, and my dad used to tell me, if you have a nightmare, instead of running to me, just wake up and say, God stands before me, Satan fall behind, and you'll be okay. And like you were saying earlier, even if you didn't have faith in God or anything else, like you have faith in what your father's telling you, so this can work for you. And it did on so many different realms. So we moved from Fayetteville, Arkansas to Miami, Florida, lived there for a while, and then my dad sent us for quote unquote vacation to our grandparents and never sent for us again, and I was living in my mother's bedroom. So I've always had night terrors and really crazy shit happening at night, so I had issues sleeping. I still do today. My bedtime used to be 4 o'clock in the morning. Now it's about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sitting there one night, and this is after my first apparition witnessing. This is at my grandparents' house, and I'm actually staying in my mother's bedroom. And I'm trying to go to sleep, and I'm feeling like I'm about to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden I hear this chattering. And I'm hearing drum. Okay, so there's like chanting, there's drums, and I'm like, what the fuck? And yes, I did have a very musical and adverse sense of vocabulary as a kid. My dad even caught me and said I was very vocally trained, but at the same time I needed a spanking for that because I should not be speaking as such as a child. But anywho, so I creeped on the wall of this bed that used to be my mother's bed, and I peek over the rim of the right side of the window out into the chicken yard. So there's about 5 to 6 feet of yard, and then there's a fence, and then there's the chicken yard. There's a little rim that they made that they put a tractor tire in that they'd put water in to give them water, and then they'd sprinkle feed all over the chicken yard. And then they had chicken houses where we'd go and collect chicken eggs. But right in the middle of the chicken yard, I see this bonfire. And then I see these little gremlin-looking dudes. Like, they're little demon dudes, but they look like gremlins, except for their ears aren't as big or pronounced. They're a little shorter, and they kind of remind me of the Kentucky goblins, except for their eyes aren't glowing. And so they're dancing around, and some of them have spears, some of them have a bow and arrow, some of them have drums, like they have knives or daggers, whatever you want to call them, and they're dancing around the fire, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, like chanting. Oh my gosh, I almost did it, and I didn't want to re-represent that, but all of a sudden, it's like, plum, like with the drums and everything, plum, to a stop. And then they all stopped and looked towards my window, and I threw myself back in bed. I threw my blankets over me and my sheet up to right above my nose and right below my eyeballs, so I could still see. But I was sitting there pretending like I'm sleeping, and I'm looking at the wall away from the window, and I can see these shadows of these little gremlin guys coming up, And then they're scratching up the wall, and they're looking through my window, and they're chattering back and forth. And I'm so fucking scared. Like, I think I'm holding my breath at this point.
Mm.
And then they scurry down the wall, and after that night, and I feel really, really guilty at this point, because at that night, they started chasing my brother through the house basically every night to every other night. And he'd
Wow.
run through the house, into the living room, through the house, through the baking room, which is where the stove was and all my grandma's baking goods. And then there was
Mhm.
the kitchen and the dining room table, and then there was this little step off for the entryway room for other goods. And then you go out to the bathroom. But yeah, he'd run and hit that door and come back, and there was that little 2-inch step from the kitchen to the baking goods room, and he'd always trip on that and fall. And the very last time I was awakened by that and saw him do that, my
Mhm.
grandparents held him. They fucking held him, and they looked in the direction these little fucking things were running, and they
Mhm.
allowed them to capture him because they're like, we can't spare any more sleep. Like, they had so much work to do, I guess. I don't know what their thinking was, but they
Oh
allowed
my
him
God.
to be captured. So, that was that, and that was really fucking freaky, right? You wouldn't think it would get any worse.
Right.
For
But it does.
me, oh wow, I drift off to sleep, very peaceful. Man, this
Mm.
hasn't happened in a long time. I can't even remember the last time this happened. And then I wake up after having this really vivid dream. So I'm in my bed, I'm sleeping peacefully. All of a sudden, my bed starts tilting up and up and up and up to the point where I'm sliding down my sheets to the end of my bed. Well, it's not like the end of the bed today. Like, this one was down below about 3 or 4 inches.
Mhm.
So I had to grab onto that, put my thumbs behind that, and then my forefingers in front of that, and try not to fall into the hole, into the fucking abyss, whatever the hell this is. And I'm sitting there and I'm smelling the smoke, and it's like so sulfuric. It's like somebody lit a bunch of matches, and it's also like just
Right.
very hot and burny. And
Mhm.
then I finally wake up, and I'm a very still sleeper. Like, when I go to sleep, I wake up where I went to sleep at.
Mm. Amen. Yes. So
Well,
am I. So am I. Yes.
yeah,
I don't move around. I don't move around a lot at all.
yeah. Well, I woke up, and I was at the very end of my bed, and I was breathing hard, and I was like, holy shit. That was a fucked up dream.
Mhm.
I'm so glad that was a dream. And then I was like sniffing around, and I didn't smell the sulfur smoke anymore. And
Right.
it was all clear, and I'm still, like, the very last sniff I took, it was like a sniff of, like, sweet smoke, like cherry smoke. Okay, so my
Oh.
grandparents smoke velveteen smoke, and I still have the canister here in my office.
Mhm.
I was smelling a sweet cherry smoke. I was like, what? So I had to sniff again. Like, what the fuck is that smell?
Mhm.
Then I look up from the end of my bed into the doorway, and I didn't have a door. I had 2 little yellow lace curtains tied back. And there was a
Mhm.
tall man in my doorway. And I was like, oh, it's just Grandpa, I thought at first.
Mhm.
And then I sniffed again a couple times, and I was like, that's not Grandpa. Like, that's not what Grandpa smokes. Grandpa smokes velveteen tobacco. This is like a cherry sweet smoke.
Mhm.
And then I look up this individual in my doorway, and he's very tall. Basically, he's about 6 foot or more tall, and very sleek, dark subject, until he takes a puff off his cigar. When he did so, I not only saw his face and his hair, but what he was wearing, and he was wearing this tuxedo with a bow
Mhm.
tie and a white shirt, and his hair was slicked back. And you said how that guy looked kind of greasy. Well, I'm pretty sure this guy greased his hair back, but he was the most gorgeous man I had ever laid eyes on.
Wow.
And he was so beautiful, and you would think I would just drop my jaw and just talk to this guy, but I like you said, that feeling you had. I had
Mhm.
that feeling, and I knew who this was. And I said Satan earlier because that's what my dad said. Satan falls.
Right.
You
Mhm.
Satan fall behind me. God stands first. And it worked. Like, I didn't even have to say it out loud. I said it in my head, and just like
Right.
that, I was knocked out, and I did not have to talk to him. So he was in my doorway when my mom saw him, which I found out years later. So our family was split apart when my mom was killed by a drunk driver. All my half siblings went with their dad. Me and my brother went with our dad. And then later on, we kind of commingled. And then finally, there was this great new, like, sort of reunion. And we're telling stories. And I told this story. And my dad turned white, like I say, white as a sheet. And he said, "No fucking way. Are you saying this right now?" And I'm like, "Dad, are you saying I'm not telling you the truth?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. I'm just saying, like, no way in hell, like, did you have the same experience? Your mom said she saw him, but he was right next to her bed, and they had a very lengthy conversation, and I think they did make a deal. Seriously. And we even, not I, but my older siblings found a witchcraft book on the bookshelf and other things like that. So they're thinking she might have made a deal earlier on, and then she's trying to figure out ways to get out of it, but she couldn't.
Oh, making a deal with the devil is not
Yeah.
the thing to do. No.
I think he hit her right as soon as she was, like, legal for the taken.
I see. Wow, that is fascinating. And so all these years, you kept this within yourself, and then you got together with this family reunion or something, right? And then people began to tell stories of different things, situations, happenings in the family, and you come up with this.
Well, I
It's
actually
like,
told it to my
wow.
cousin, and she went and told her mom, and her mom came at me, and she's like, "Don't you tell these lies and folklore and all this other shit to my kid. She don't need to be
Oh my.
hearing this shit, blah, blah, blah." And I'm living in her house because my mom died by being killed by a drunk driver, and my dad shortly after sent us for a visitation to our grandparents and never sent for us again. So my aunt and uncle came and got us, and my aunt is now my mom because she adopted me. But yeah,
Right.
she is so hardcore. Even today, against paranormal, I'm like, "I can put things up around your house, and I can sage it, and I can do other things." And she's like, "I don't want any of it." So we wait till she goes to bed and cleanse the
I can.
house or whatever. But yeah, she's afraid. She's so afraid, and she doesn't want to hear it. But she accused me when I was littler of making it up. And don't tell my kids these lore or fairy tales or whatever. And I'm like, this is real. Like, I know it was
Right.
real. And I've had people ask me in the past, "How do you know this wasn't a dream?" Because I fucking experienced it.
Right.
I was sleeping, then I woke up, and then I experienced this.
Right. And you know what? And you know what? That was your experience. So people have to validate that. And by validate, it's not that they have to believe that you experience it, but validate because it is your own experience. You know what I mean? And just like with me walking with my lover on the beach. You know what I mean? I have not told that to anyone. You're the first person I have ever mentioned on the radio or any podcast about about really encountering the evil one. Really.
Yeah.
You know?
That was
And
scary. And it's kind of like, okay, so there's different shows out these days, and you see different ways that he can work. So perhaps he wasn't personally there, but he was working through the eyes of that person. Like, he was there. He was still
right.
there, but he was working through the eyes of another person and looking at you. And it was the looking at you that really disturbed you, right?
Oh, very much so. It was like the person was looking into my soul.
Oh, yes. Oh, my
It,
God. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm going to have to shave again. I'm like, holy
it
shit.
was
That is so
it was
scary. Seriously. Like, it's worse than that.
it was when your body reacts to that, when you get the goosebumps, when you have this fight or flight thing that you want to do, right? You want to get away or you want to fight this person, but you're trying to get away, right? And when the person looks at you and his eyes kind of roll up in his head and he cackles this horrible laugh. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
the most
Never
evil,
forget.
like, heartless,
Yes.
soulless
Oh,
laugh.
amen. Amen. And then my lover and I, we leave. We walk north about 10 minutes. We decide we need to get out of there. He's nowhere to be found. Nowhere. Nowhere.
Thank
There are no
God.
houses. There are no houses. There's no main highways and such like that. None whatsoever. Where did he go? I do
Yeah, when it
believe.
you do believe what? I'm sorry.
No, so I do believe. I do believe it was the evil one. I truly believe it was.
Me too. Okay,
Then-
so like when I told you about that dream I had, and I woke
Right.
up and I saw, oh my God, this guy was so handsome, and he had the greasy hair like you were talking about, but it's like
Mhm.
that greaser stuff they used to put in their hair to slick their hair back. His hair was
Like
slicked back perfectly.
Brooklyn and things like that, right?
Yeah, he was wearing a tuxedo. He had a bow tie. This guy was so fucking beautiful, aka sexy, like whatever the fuck you want to call it. I knew
Hmm.
immediately, like I didn't even ask him. And it was like you said earlier, you felt it in your soul. You
Right.
knew who the fuck this was. And I did at the age of 6. I
Right.
knew who that was. And I didn't know the difference between Satan and Lucifer because I'd never heard the word Lucifer before. Because I
Oh,
didn't have any sort of religion or anything in my life. I just had my mother and my father and my
right.
grandparents.
Hmm.
But what my dad told me, I didn't even say it out loud. God stands before me, Satan fall behind. And just like that, I was out like a light. Snap.
Hmm.
Out.
Right.
And I didn't have to deal with him. And so years later, we had a family reunion, and my dad said, after I told the story, and I said he turned white as a sheet, my mother had the same vision, except for he was right next to her bed. And she
Hmm.
actually made a deal with him. So, my sister was talking about this accident I had. So I hit some
Hmm.
corduroy on the road and I almost had an accident. And then all of a sudden it was like something yanked my steering wheel off the
Hmm.
side of the road. It was almost a 5,000, but ended up to be a 500-foot drop off.
Mm.
Had we gone past the trees, it would have been further.
Right.
But we went off and hit the trees and landed in a nice piney, soft space as far as
Hmm.
pine needles. Oh my goodness! And my sister said she remembers being in the shower and all of a sudden my mother was there pleading for my life and pleading against the courts or whatever. And then they made a
Wow.
decision. So that was
Uh-huh.
pretty cool too. I don't know.
Mm. Wow. So there's something going on with your mother and whoever and whatever. You know what I mean? Something.
Yeah, I think
You
she's
know.
the one that started this family curse and it's come after us. Not only me with this
Hmm.
sort of revelation, but my sister with a more scaly sort of revelation. She was actually trying to be raped by a scaly individual, which could be the
Hmm.
other form of Satan or Lucifer or whatever you want
Right.
to call him.
Right.
Um, we've all been cursed, and my husband has said Lucifer is not going to do his own work. Well, that's with smaller deeds, but as far as looking for a wife, I do believe that he will show himself. And I do believe I saw him, the most beautiful angel, because he was the most beautiful man I ever saw.
Amen. Amen. And it says that in the Bible in the book of Genesis that
Yeah.
Lucifer was the most beautiful angel of all angels. Yes. The most beautiful. Yes, very much so.
Oh my
And it
God, he was. He was so beautiful.
and it could be. And you know what? Also, would you tell me that he had like his hair was slicked back? He was wearing a
Oh yeah,
nice
it looked like he
tux.
had greaser stuff. You know how
Right.
greasers
Very
used to use that.
good.
His hair was slicked back perfectly, and
Okay, what resonated with me was during the 1920s, 30s, men dressed like that.
that's what it
And
felt like too. It was not
okay,
present day. It was like you
right,
said.
20s or 30s. And it was like, I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Great Gatsby or read the book.
Oh, I did read the book a few years
That,
ago. I was so grateful to. I was like, oh my God, how could I have not have read this book before?
hmm. And if you see the movie, you will see what I'm talking about when it comes to people wearing those tuxedos, greasing their hair back and such like that. And so that resonated with me. That was from the 20s or 30s or something like that. And but anyhow, so that's what I thought. Oh my God, tuxedo, very nice, beautiful, beautiful
I
people,
knew
beautiful gardens.
immediately who he was. I just felt it. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, God stands before me, Satan fall behind. God stands before me, Satan fall behind. And just like that, I
Mm-hmm.
was out.
And and praise God, praise God. But now the question is, how are you going to get rid of this so your children, it doesn't continue with your
Do you know what
children?
I do?
But
So, what I do is educate my children. I tell them my stories. I tell them
mm-hmm.
my experiences. I tell them the tools I used. And I hope they have some sort of faith. My daughter has a shrine in her room that she's got with
Uh-huh.
crystals and herbs and all kinds of other stuff, and this cool little blanket sort of thing I gave her that is like a pendulum, but it's not upside down, it's right side up.
Mm-hmm.
And then my kids, like, oh my God, Lily, she's definitely a person that's lived in the past. She knows what's going on.
Right.
And then Floyd, we just have to make sure he's not scared because he gets scared a lot.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, he's a good boy. And he was born with
Mm.
6 fingers on his right hand.
Wow.
Yes, he's very gifted. All my children are gifted in some sort of way or another. Even my daughter Kinsey was there when we had the accident I just told you about, where that we were ripped
Right.
to the right and almost died, but didn't. Even the dog was underneath our car, and the pine needles were so lush. He was unharmed. Like, I don't know, it was perfect, but at the same time, what was it that pulled the wheel of my car? Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it was something else on the other side.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And so like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when I was on, we talked about angels, angels among us, human angels and such like that, and supernatural angels that will come and help us and such like that, and things. And it's very, very
I
true.
feel like it was a demon that was like, "Oh, you thought you got out of that? Guess what? Rank."
Right. It's very, very true. If
I was
angels can.
expecting to go back the next day to the
Right.
accident scene and see my body in the car, like I'm a spirit or something, trying to
Right.
go back and look at the scene. And I was so
Mm-hmm.
grateful when I didn't see my body laying in that car. I was just like, "Oh, thank you, God." Seriously, like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
was so
And
afraid that I was still going to be laying there in that car.
Mm. And so if angels can come in the form of human beings, and then the evil one can also. The evil one can manifest himself or herself, you know what I mean, in any shape or form also. So they can. And and so I thank you for being so open and telling us about that. It would be interesting. Um, it'd be interesting to have your children like in a roundtable discussion about a family curse or about generational curses and such like that. You know what I mean? And but
Right?
it needs and so it needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped
It
with
does, and
your
that's the important
generation.
part, is to stop the spiral or
Oh, very much so. Stop it. Stop everything
stop
in
the
its tracks.
continuation of that
Right.
prospect.
Right. Enough is enough. It's time for good things to happen in our lives. That
I think
happened in
that's
the
where my
past.
kids are. They're like, "Oh yeah, cuz I've taught them and learned them, and yes, they deal with stuff, and yes, there's still things in our house that scares them. But for the most part, like, my daughter has this thing going on in her room. It's very beautiful with crystals and everything. Altar, I think you call it. She has
Mm-hmm.
an altar. And then my other daughter now has a new son, and she has an altar too.
Mm.
And I think I'm the only one without an altar because I don't know, that kind of scares me.
Oh, okay. Well, do you know what? All of us have our own spirituality. Your children
I
feel
think my
very
altar is more
comfortable,
internal.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong whatsoever. A lot of times we need external uh, altars so we could visualize that. If we can't visualize it in our mind, we need to see it. You know what I mean? But those altars sound beautiful, really. And at home, not here in Nebraska where I'm at right now, but at excuse me, but at home, I my bedroom looks like a cathedral with 50 like candles. You know what I mean? On all sorts of things. And that's very, very soothing to me. It is very, very soothing, you know. But the evil one comes in different forms. And I must say hi to my friend Andre. If he is listening in, Andre is from Minnesota. And hello,
Hey,
Andre. We'll be
Andre.
talking. Yes, so we will. I will be talking with you Sunday night. Okay, Andre is real cool. He is really, really a cool guy. He is from the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Really cool guy. Um, he has this. He has this. He wants to travel, and and so we're talking about him traveling and stuff like that. And he's just really a cool guy. Been through a lot. Been through a lot of things. He's a survivor. A really cool guy. And so I want to just reach out and say, hi, Andre. Thank you for listening. And we will be chatting with each other Sunday night. But my brothers and sisters, let me tell you that the evil one is alive and well.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can tell.
He's getting stronger every day.
And
Any
you can tell.
negativity or fear or anything you have, he likes
Yes.
it a lot.
And you can tell what's happening in our world right now. Look at what's going on. Okay. There's so much evil. I said 2 weeks ago, before what was happening in Ukraine and that part of Europe, that the world was upside down. It was topsy-turvy. And it is even more so now. It is. And so we have to think good thoughts that we're going to get through this. We're going to get
Yeah,
through this.
Robert's over here saying, my house is the altar. I'm like, no way, dude.
Well, that's good. I'll come to your altar. Okay, I'll come to your altar. But
Okay,
it's just
please come to my altar. Give me positive energy. I'm burning a fire, okay? That heats my house. That's not an altar, but I guess it could be.
right. It's true. But anyhow, but think about good thoughts. Think about sending good thoughts to other people. You know what I mean? We're all brothers and sisters in the universe. I know that I get shot down many times by saying that from a lot of people, especially my evangelical
Why?
Christian friends.
Like, I don't get it.
Well, because the only way that I can say that we're all brothers and sisters, if everyone has received Christ as their Savior. They believe that.
No
They
way.
believe. I know. And for me,
It's
we're
all
made
in
out.
acceptance and openness, really.
Right. Right. And also that God tells us that we're made out of his image and likeness. So that means to me that God does not make junk and that we're all brothers and sisters, because if we believe that God is our Father and our Creator, right? That means we are his children. And being
If I
his
looked
children.
like God and Jesus, I'd look like Xena the warrior princess with my ultra special looking pecs.
But your spirit is like her. Your spirit is
Right.
like her.
Yeah.
It is. Very much so. Look at your beautiful smile. Look at your beautiful smile. But
Aw.
but back behind, just not your smile. A lot of people's smiles, they're really hiding a lot of sadness.
Right.
Lots of sadness. But the bottom line for tonight's program, and I'll be on again when Tessa allows me to, is that the evil one is alive and doing well.
Yes,
so
very much so.
Yes, each of us has to do our part to banish this. If not maybe the entire world, but within our own world, within our own community, within our own family, okay? A lot of people have come up to me just recently and said, Robert, I need to make amends to my family. I've tried to. They won't hear me out. They hang up on me. They slam the door in my face. I said, listen. And I said, you have already asked them for forgiveness. You
Yeah, put
reached
it out in the
out.
universe.
Right. And you reached out to them. If they're not accepting of that, you did it.
Yeah,
You
that's
tried to
their
make
problem.
amends. Right. It's on them now. Don't worry about it. You made that step. You were willing to take responsibility for what you have done and to apologize and to make some type of amends towards them. And if they don't accept them, fuck them. You know what I mean? I mean, we still love them, love them, but you tried. You tried. And that's all what the universe has asked anyone to do, is to try. That we need to make amends if all possible. And if they don't accept it, just like you said, my beautiful Colorado friend, is if they don't accept it, then it's upon them. It's their sin, not yours.
Yeah,
And
and
it's very
forgiveness
good.
is about that. It's not for them, it's for you. And yes, you can
Right.
project that energy, but if they refuse to receive it and they don't go through the steps they need to, that's not your
Mm-hmm.
problem. You're going through your steps and you don't need their acceptance to go through that. So, it's very
Right.
important to realize that you're not held down by them. You can do this
Mm-hmm.
on your own. And it's very important to do so because yeah, we all need that.
Yeah. Oh, we do. We all need, and I've said this before, is that we can be our own best friend and we can be our own worst enemy. The person who we need to forgive the most is ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves, and it's very difficult to do that. It's very difficult. It is. It takes time, but to forgive someone else, we need to forgive ourselves too, because we need to claim it. We need to take take
Yeah, that's the
responsibility.
first step is to forgive yourself. You can't forgive anyone else until you forgive yourself.
Right. And that we need to hold claim to and take responsibility for allowing others to fuck up our lives, because we know that it's happening and we allowed it to happen. You know what I mean? We know, we can feel it, right? And we know that it's happening. And the more that we allow people to screw us over, we fall deeper and deeper into the chasm, in a very dark and
It's
unsafe
not a good
place.
place. Not a good place.
No, not at all.
It's
So
very scary
I hope,
there, so don't go there.
yeah, right. It is. It's very scary. It's no fun. Sometimes you can't see the light at the top of the tunnel. Sometimes you can't see the light because there's so much darkness that we have allowed people to put there. Granted, there are some times that other people, especially when we're children, that we're not responsible for adults. Okay, so if someone has molested you, has done horrible, heinous things to you, my brothers and sisters, as a child, you don't have to take any responsibility for that whatsoever. Okay, you're a child. You're a child.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
not your fault. You're
no,
a
it's not.
victim.
Yes, you're a victim. You're a victim. And so what has happened in the past, like I said, if we don't come to terms with what has happened in the past, we must relive that constantly.
Relive
And it's
it, break the cycle, and grow stronger.
amen. Also, it's time to get off that damn roller coaster. Stop
That's
going to
right.
Coney Island. Stop going to Disney World and Disneyland and Six Flags Over America or whatever, right? Get off the roller coaster. Start loving yourself, hugging yourself. By loving yourself doesn't mean that you're a vain person. It means that you're connecting with yourself. You're connecting physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And we need to do that, especially now with all the negativity that's out there. We need to ground ourselves. We need to listen to ourselves. We need to
And
connect with.
don't listen to the bullshit. Like, seriously.
It is true. It
Grow
is.
above and beyond that. You're better than that. Don't let the negativity get you down. And it's really hard, especially with Ukraine and Russia going on.
Hmm.
Basically, like, how is Ukraine, who's wanting to join NATO, going to join NATO after this when you guys are just sitting on the sidelines, like, not the bully, but basically someone just sitting there watching? Oh, I'm an
Right.
observer. I'm not going to do anything to help unless you hurt me. And then I'll come in and hurt you.
Right.
Seriously?
And by that, right. And then by that time, it is too late. It is
Yeah,
too
they're
late
already
then.
hurting so bad. Like, they're hitting children's facilities, etc. Like, this is ridiculous. And I feel like
It is.
Russia is poking us. Poke, 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 poke. Let's see which one is going to hurt worse. Oh, the children's facility should have been the main one, but no, that's not enough. Okay, what else can
Mhm.
we hit?
Right.
What else is there? Like, I don't know. That's, to me,
And
is
it's very,
insane.
very sad. It's
And we're
very
just
sad.
sitting there. Oh, we'll
Mhm.
donate billions of dollars, but we're not going to come in and help.
Right. And that, that's very, very true. And also, my brothers and sisters, follow your dream, but make sure that your dream isn't so lofty that it is unattainable. Don't set yourself up to fail.
Yeah, don't be
We have,
dreaming to fly or something like that.
right. And all of us have dreamt and had dreams about doing this and doing that. And some of them, like for myself personally, I had many a dream, but it was too lofty and I set myself up to fail. Okay. I realized that there's just so much I can do within this universe, right? There's some, and dreaming the things that I want to do. And by the grace of God in the universe, I have done those. I have gone skydiving. I have been bungee jumping off of like bridges and stuff and those types of things, right?
Oh, wow.
I have done things on my bucket list. I have traveled by myself, which I love to do. And Andre, our friend from Minnesota, he is going to go on traveling. He's going to go traveling. He's going to go on this journey, and by going on this journey, he will really understand who he is within the universe. And my brothers
It
and
really
sisters,
is those like situations where you feel like you're going to die, whether it's bungee jumping, getting into a car accident, whatever else. Certain
Mhm.
situations like that where you see life after death or whatever else going on, you have this new appreciation. So that's pretty
Mhm.
exciting.
Yeah, and so you know what? Go out there. If you want to travel, travel. Don't be one of these people when you're 85 years old, sitting in your home or a nursing home or God knows where, and you're sitting back regretting, oh my God, I wish I had done this 70 years ago. You know what I mean? 60 years ago. Do it. Hop into that vehicle. Hop into your van. Yes, do it now. I mean, one of the best experiences, I know we're almost done, but one of the best experiences I have ever been to is hopping into my little gremlin. Talk about gremlin. I owned a gremlin car,
Oh
and
yeah.
I drove from Peoria, Illinois to Manitou Springs, to the Garden of the Gods,
Oh my
to
God, I still have not been there, and I live in Colorado. I'm like, how the hell have we still not been there? And we go back and forth, right past that area, and we still have not been
right.
to the Garden of the
Oh
Gods.
wow.
How is this?
Wow, that's one of the first places I went to, and also going to the Raton Pass between New Mexico and Colorado. Beautiful area there. And going to Pikes Peak. Oh my God, going
Yes.
horseback riding
Evans Point.
in Pikes Peak. That was one of the first journeys I did in my life, and I did it by myself on $100. Back then you could. Back then you could. And then I went to
Right?
Arizona from there.
Oh
You
my
know what? And
God.
so Andre and all of our brothers
So
and sisters,
beautiful.
please do these things. Follow your spirit.
Live
Don't be one
life.
of those people
Don't
that
be
say, yes,
afraid.
amen. Don't be afraid. Do it. Do it, because I don't want you to be 90 years old, 80 years old, 70 years old, and sitting back saying, oh God,
I
I wish
wish
I
I
would
would
have
have.
done that. Yeah. And the could have, should have, and would have, those
Yeah,
are
coulda,
all
shoulda,
words of
woulda.
guilt.
That's my
Yeah.
life's admission.
So please, my brothers and sisters, please do what you want, do what you need to do for yourself. And by putting yourself on that pedestal, I know people will say, well, you're not supposed to be on a pedestal. Bullshit. We
You
all
have
need
to
to
be
be
on
on
a
a pedestal,
soapbox
not on
sometimes.
them.
Come on, eh?
Yeah, we all need to shine.
Mm-hmm.
We all need to be a beacon, especially right now. We need to be that beacon in the darkness of what is happening to our country, to our city, to our
To our
family,
world.
and yes, it's very true.
Well, I
Very,
just have
very
to thank you so much again for being my guest this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Robert, it has been so awesome, and I wish we had 2 more hours, like I said earlier. Every time we're at the end of time, I wish we had 2 more hours, but holy shnikes, can you tell our friends and listeners how to get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Yes, please do. If the universe has my telephone number, 309-213-0325. Again, 309-213-0325. If you have any questions, want to speak to me, I am always available. If I'm not, text me. I will get back to you. I don't charge anything for what I do because my gifts and talents come from God and I use them wisely and appropriately. We're here to help each other, especially now. We need each other. Okay? Andre,
Amen.
hope you're listening, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow night. And my brothers and sisters, follow your dream. Follow it right now. Tomorrow, do it. Do whatever. Follow your heart and follow your spirit, because by following your heart, your spirit, you won't go wrong. Thank you. Love, light, and peace to everyone.
Love
Thank
and
you,
light to you,
Tessa,
my
honey.
brother. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful that you were here tonight.
Thank you. Bless you.
Bless you, brother. And thank you to all of our friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, KPNL Radio, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, and wherever else beyond the Omniverse you've been listening tonight. I had a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it again. Until tomorrow night, guess what? It's story time with me, TessaTNT. Yes, yes, yes. Please don't over-exaggeratedly express your happiness for this, because I know how much you love it. Especially you, my roommate, Mr. Dennis. But anyways, I hope you guys had a wonderful time. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media. Because without you, there is no us. If you'd like to join us on the Skype after party, look me up at tessa.n.thomas30 or give us a jingle at 970-335-9596. Until next time, night, love and light, and take care of my yous.